That's good. That's good. All right. All right. So for those that were here yesterday, what was the main thing we learned yesterday?
Roles, baby.
Know your role. Know your role, know what to do, know somebody else's job, they get whacked, you know how to do their job, and pay attention, you'll have a better outcome. So when you talk about, this is not a big topic, fun topic to talk about, but y'all did your ICS 100, 200, and 700.
We're doing those now.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so this kind of plays off of that. And even at the senior supervisory level and stuff, our role in this, when you start looking at that, is very minimal. And you're down at the bottom of the org chart as a branch director or something like that. You got to be director level above to be up there in that plans, logistical section, and then et cetera. So you may start this, but then we do this thing, like I said, just a modified, unified command kind of thing. We never had any big, long, drawn out operations here that have caused to have a whole chart drawn out, but it's done in some capacity, if that makes sense. And some of the big falters when we get into this lecture, the big one is communication, not paying attention to what you're doing. Somebody gives you an order on the radio, take your ambulance, go to the blue light on Turner Field and wait for instructions. It never seems to fail. You can get everybody there but one person or one crew because they're not paying attention to the radio. They're paying attention to what they're going to do. So we're going to talk about roles, responsibilities to ensure patient and public are safe, and then establish and work within this command system. Okay. A couple multiple casualty incidents, things to triage principles, resource management, and triage performing re-triage decision destinations, and post-traumatic and cumulative stress. And this is a big one here. We've had several big events here, from the courthouse shooting to Botanical Gardens to the Bluffton bus wreck. And it took a minute during the courthouse shooting to get those people off ambulances, because despite whatever's going on, we still have to run 911 calls. It took a minute to get some of them crews off the courthouse shooting call, but eventually they were all taken off the ambulance, all put in a room, fed, debriefed, conversated, and done whatever. And then, either went home for the day, depending on what time of day it was for the end of their shift, or went back and run ambulance calls. Okay. This is a big one. Making sure everybody's mentally, psyche's okay, and everybody's good. Okay. And then hazard materials awareness, or risk and exposure operating in the cold zone of hazard materials or special incident. If you're in the cold zone, you should be pretty safe, but it still doesn't mean you shouldn't have situational awareness and be paying attention to what's going on around you, right? So a disaster at MCI can be overwhelming. 3 or more patients. Can everybody agree with that statement? If y'all all pair up into an ambulance, crew 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you all go to a call, and there's a car accident with 4 stable patients, is that considered an MCI? Yes. There's more patients than you have resources there to take care of patients, whether they're 2 critical, a stable, and a walking wounded, or vice versa, right? It's 3 or more patients, and you lack resources to take care of those patients effectively. Okay. It doesn't have to be this big catastrophic plane crash or the incident that happened on Monday or whatever day it was, Tuesday in Beirut, where this plant goes up and leaves a 300-foot crater and moves the ocean inward, and the whole little peninsula there is annihilated. It doesn't have to be that big. Okay. One of the scenarios I think we talked about yesterday, like we go to a nursing home. Y'all go to a nursing home, and there's 13 people there with nausea, vomiting, flu-like symptoms, or something like that. That overruns our resources. We need people to come help us, right? And then inside any incident command system or anything in the world is make it possible to do the greatest good for the greatest number. You're not saving everybody. Everybody's not going home and reliving and writing books and getting movie deals. There's going to be casualties, but the goal is to do the greatest good for the number of good. Okay. So basically, come 9/11, 1990, 2001, and the World Trade Center and other national emergencies come about. It's always, the fire service always does this in command very well. Does anybody know where the command started from? California and out west with the fires of the 70s and early 80s. They developed this incident command system because the world was burning and they needed some sort of structure. So it started from there. If you haven't got that far into NIMSY, your classes, that will be part of that. Okay. And it was an effort to put everybody on the same incident, same places, same lingo, a structure, and make sure tasks and things got accomplished. And overall, end of the day, things were taken care of, right? If you notice when you do your NIMS and stuff, there's no fancy lingo. They're directors, they're supervisors, they're this. It doesn't matter your job title going into the incident. It's whatever role. You're the EMS branch director. That is your role now. So job titles and things doesn't mean you're assigned a name and you're assigned a set of responsibilities, and that's what you do. Okay, really about 2004, it started really being implemented. It's a good framework and enables everybody, public safety, local governments to work together, as well as private and non-governmental organizations. And when you look on the FEMA website, they have incident command for schools, incident command for public works people. They have incident command classes for you name it. They have one for it, right? So public works people, they have a water main leak and it's just isolated to them. They know that supervisor A is in charge. They're sending this piece of equipment there, this person there, this, that there, and somebody's running the incident. Does that make sense? They just don't send six guys and girls out the water main leak and go, hey, you gotta figure out how to fix it. Somebody's got to be in charge. Somebody's got to know what to do. Somebody's got to take responsibility. And if not, if nobody takes responsibility, nobody wants to be in charge. If something bad happens, what happens next?
Chaos.
And huh? The big one is finger pointing. Well, I thought Joe was going to do that. No, I thought Susie was going to do that. Willie Wonka said she was going to do that. Fred Flintstone was going to be over there. Nobody has any responsibility. Nobody's going to own the responsibility, right? So that's what kind of this does. It's flexible. You can make this thing as big as you want, or you can make this thing as small as you want, okay? Like I said before, it provides standardized terminology, resource classification, training, and being certified and understand to work it. When you get it through your EMS career and you get moving along and you do whatever, you get the opportunity to take like the 300 and 400, which is for mid-level supervisors and above. It's amazing of the tools they have. That 3-ring notebook binder that he has in the logistics section, you can open that book up. Literally, you want a 2-ton bulldozer, tells you how much it costs per hour to get, how much dirt move and whatever it can do, and how many people it takes to run it. Down to any piece of equipment, any car, piece of equipment, crane. I mean, it's all in this book. We need a 40-foot crane that can lift 500 tons. Okay, well, it's going to cost you $475 an hour. It takes 6 men to run it, and that's when the planning committee takes the IAP and starts doing that, and they start getting together the resources. It's a pretty incredible book because it's just anything you can think of. What might it take to run? How many people? What it would cost per hour? Maybe we're looking at one thing and be like, well, we really can go with this cheaper one to get the same work done with that. So it's really neat to be involved in part of that. So why is this one important? That's a true statement. So in our area, what do we have that we could potentially prepare for in our area that would help us at the time of an event that something happened? What about snow and ice? Does it have to be an patient casualty thing? What about snow and ice? I think we've learned our lesson over the last 4 or 5 years that whatever we were doing before stunk and it wasn't the appropriate thing to be doing, right? What other things do we have? Tornadoes is another big one. Okay. How about flooding? In every major metropolitan city, including Atlanta, knock on wood, we've always escaped every active shooter, and we've escaped every terrorist event that's happened in the United States. Is that not a true statement? Atlanta sits with a lot of rich targets. Home of CNN, home UPS, Home Depot,
On the CDC.
CDC's in DeKalb. We got, just like any other major metropolitan city, we got a federal courthouse. We got all these rich and target environments that are, a lot of them are crammed in one area. You know, you might get somebody out in Philly and went to blow up the CNN Center and the World Congress Center at one time, what kind of crater that would be left over there. So being prepared for all those different things makes life a lot easier. Okay, there's a tornado. Everybody has already had an action plan. They pull out their little book, they open it up, and they start doing the plans they have in the book, and people know their roles. Especially when you start talking about open up GEMA, FEMA, Joint Area Commands, and all this other stuff is where all this big umbrella falls into, okay? Got to have good communications and information management, good resource management, command and management, and ongoing management and maintenance. Okay, these are all inside of this as the event turns place, but preparedness is a good place to start. Okay, we can't decide we need a snow and ice command policy or a book and wait 3 days into the ice storm to figure out that we need to do something different, right? Most of those things are done on best practices, trial and error. Okay. So the main purpose of this is to provide is to serve as responder safety and public safety, achieve the goals, and ensure efficient use of your resources. So everybody who's there has a purpose, everybody is safe, and we manage the incidents in front of us. Okay. You see, y'all remember LIPS, life safety, incident stabilization, and SP. They'll come to me in a minute and I'll tell you. That's kind of the principle I work in. So they're inside this world of incident command. It controls duplication, meaning you're not going to be doing the same thing somewhere else or trying to do the same thing at the same spot, or somebody's trying to reduplicate our work. And the big one, freelancing. There is no room for freelancing inside this command. If we are all assigned to the medical sector and y'all are triage green, triage yellow, triage red, they're black, and y'all are whoever inside there, it doesn't mean we commingle. Or you decide they're not doing it right, so you go over there and freelance, take over their job, leaving your man behind. Or if you think of something, you're like, okay, all these guys are crazy, we should do it this way. You start doing things your way. There's no room for freelancing, okay? This is very important. It also limits the span of control. 1 supervisor to 3 to 7 workers. So what do you think the ideal number is in between there? 5. So if I'm the EMS branch director, right, I can have triage, treatment, with some sort of medical logistics support, right, and another branch under me. That's my 5 people. If you're triage, under you, you will have green, red, section officer, or whatever they're called. That's your 4. And then right there, each one of them can have 5 to 7. So eventually, when it reports up, there's really 35 people underneath me, but how many directly report to me? 5. The lower worker reports to their section, to their person, and back up. So really, underneath my section of the chart, I could have 35 or 40 people, but the 5 key principals report to me, and they report up. And same thing, information flows from the top down. When we brief every morning, when they talk about those planning briefs or whatever, I get the brief from the operations director. I come brief all y'all, and then you're responsible to take your brief to the yellow tent. They're supposed to take your brief to the orange, and so on. So everybody gets the same information, just so top to bottom, upside around. You can have sections grouped inside this thing. You have branches, divisions, and groups. Okay. You start getting down into the weeds of this thing and making it a big span. But the main thing is this guy's, the incident commander's general staff. You got an operations guy, or girl, a planning person, logistics and finance. Underneath there, you can have branches. And then divisions of groups are usually dividing of territory. Like you're the West Division person, and then we got large, and you're the Eastern Division person, or you're a work groups. Does that make sense? So these things can expand out really, really large, okay? I had the fortune of taking the incident command class, the instructor class in Anniston, Alabama. And they had a bunch of people from all over, from Orange County, Florida, Los Angeles County, these big major metropolitan services that had true, we had a guy there from Oklahoma City who was actually there, first engine in the Oklahoma City bombing to the earthquakes in 1989 or whatever it was during the World Series in San Francisco or Oakland, whichever one's in California. And they bought some of their rough drafts and things. These things are just, you can't even put on the bulletin board. They just get really, really large. But then how many people do I have report to me? 5. How many's the next person at? Sometimes they may get to 6 or 7, depending on how far it is, but they try to stay with 5 people, okay? So these are the roles and responsibilities. What do you think these guys do?
Watch the money. Make sure everything can keep working.
They watch the money. And you bet them more, guess what? They get you paid, right? When these guys plan an operational period and put the things together, because these guys carry out that order, right? These guys manage the money, okay? Or keep track of money, keep track of hourly wages, et cetera, just like an accounting or a payroll or finance department. Okay, at the end of the time, they can tell you this is the cost of our department, $1.2 million or whatever. And then if you are on any specialized teams, DMAT teams and things in Georgia that go out to these medical emergencies or do whatever, once you get through the check-in process, whatever, those are the people who get you paid back. They get you paid for your time there. They're very important people. Not only as bean counters, but they keep overall operations. So there's 2 divisions of logistics. What do you think logistics does?
Stuff too. Gets the stuff you need to do the thing.
Yeah.
You're doing.
And what's the other important part of logistics? If we all got to go to California and fight the wildfires and live in tents for a week and a half, what do you think the other part of logistics is? Yes. They feed, water, house people, and then they're also in charge of the equipment going in and out. So if y'all were going to go be on a line in the wildfire and you got to go to the logistics person, you're assigned 2 shovels, a pickaxe, and a rake. Guess who you get that from? That guy. And guess where you bring it back to at the end of the day? That guy. They're also part of the mobilization and demobilization of breaking everything down and accountability of all equipment, as well as the welfare of the participants of this exercise or the disaster, okay? Again, that can be big as or small as it wants to be. Operations, what do they do?
Execution.
They take the IAP, the Instant Action Plan, and they make it happen, okay? They make it happen. And all these people, if you notice, Instant Commander here, how many people report to him? 4. The command staff kind of joins off to the side, okay, but it really, the 4 main people report to him is the planning, finance, the FLOP, planning, logistics, operations, and planning, okay? Over here, they'll tell you about the command staff. And the command staff are 3 positions. Anybody know who those 3 positions are? Safety liaison and public communications. And sometimes they add, depending on the incident or where it is, maybe an IT information officer if it's some sort of terrorist attack that involves bugs and viruses, and or they may be a terrorism expert over there. They really have expanded that side of the command staff. They're more of advisors and type things. They work inside their charge. That makes sense. So they may have in the command staff, there may be somebody from the CDC being / liaison to them, but inside this instant command system, they're getting orders from GEMA, the JOC, and all these other places. But then there has to be somebody in charge of the boot on the ground, and then they work. It's a very complex, 800 series when you do it, it explains a lot of this pretty well, the framework and how different things open up in areas, commands and stuff of that nature, okay? So this is the command's overall person in charge, right? Is that the most highly trained expert level person out there? No. Remember, job titles don't matter. So if we have an active shooter, who do you think would be in charge? Probably the police department. If that building is on fire and it's got 500 occupants, who do you think is gonna be in charge? Probably the fire service, right? We as the redheaded stepchildren of public safety are kind of integrated into that a lot, unless you work for a true fire-based EMS service. You work for a county service that provides a county ambulance and a county fire truck, and you have equal representation. We being a third party at Denton in Atlanta, we just kind of dangling sometimes. You just have to kind of root your way in, get yourself into their system. It's like we talked about yesterday. How many fire guys are there to us on an average call? 3 or 4 to 1, man. I mean, come on, they bring 2 fire trucks, 2 engines, that's 8 people. It's just me and you, they got us 2 to 1 or 4 to 1, right? So they have a lot more workers, a lot more people. So when we bring what do we bring to the dance?
Patient care.
Patient care and what else? The ultimate trump card. The ambulance, the transport device. We lay the ultimate trump card when it comes down the table. None of them people can move. Yep, nobody can move without an ambulance, right? Or somebody being in charge of that. Okay? It's important to know who the IC is, how to communicate with them, and where the command post is located. A lot of fire grounds, because fire background, battalion chief and his aide will be on scene or somewhere running the boards, doing all the radio conversations and giving out orders, taking reports from the safety officer, the interior guy, search and rescue people, whatever they're assigned to. A lot of times when these guys come out of the building or wherever it is, their officer goes and reports to this command center to give them an update. If it's a hazmat call, somebody will go there and physically have eyeballs and communicate. There's some things you can't say over the radio, right? And not because it's classified, but you can't have the radio and have a 5-minute conversation on it, right? So they go up there and they get a brief, do whatever. So it's important to know who that is, where it is, how to get in touch with them if you need to be. Fire service does this very, very well. A lot of EMS services not so well, and we're one of them that are not so well. Can the incident commander turn the call over to somebody else? Yeah. Most definitely. If it's a building collapse and whatever, when the heavy rescue people get there, or whatever specialized unit can be there, maybe they become, their officer becomes the incident commander, et cetera. Okay. Finance, like I said, all expenditures and reimbursement logs, log department, logistics, communications, equipment, facilities, food and water, lighting, medical supplies and stuff. They're the stuff people. They take care of you. They take care of the stuff that needs to be checked in, issued clean, bring back. If you broke something, that's where it goes. You break a shovel. You just don't throw it in the fire and say, oh, we lost our shovel. Bring it back. They're accountable for it. Okay. And they're the people, they're your friends, right? Planning people, they've solved problems and they developed the instant action plan, which this guy right here tells these guys the needs and what needs to be done. They go into that planning P. You heard about in command, 1 and 2 under the planning P, how that all evolves, and then it reports back up here, and then they carry out the incident. Okay. Their main job, the operations director is responsible for supervising the people underneath him. So I got 6 people. Everything reports down, and everything reports back up, good or bad or ugly or indifferent. Designed, nobody should be working in a vacuum. Nobody should be cowboying. Nobody should be doing whatever. Everybody knows that today, if y'all are going to be on the bulldozer pushing dirt to the levee, you're going to take your little strike team out there and your group of workers are doing sandbags and you guys are doing something else. Everybody knows what we're all doing. Okay, and then everybody has a supervisor and everybody gets done. When it's done, you report it. If you got a problem, you report it, somebody, we may stop while they solve our problem. If it's something that we can't solve ourselves, you know, maybe the conditions are not what we thought they were, and we get our bulldozer, our shovels, and our tools out there, it's something more complex. Well, we got the wrong equipment to do the job, right? The command staff, these guys, they're usually stuck out here to the right of the org chart. Oh, the information officer, what's his responsibility?
Talk to people that want to know what's going on.
Yeah, he's the media guy. Where do you think he gets his information from? Yeah, the incident commander. They brief, or the incident commander's gonna speak, guess who goes with him? Yeah, if there's any news bulletins, any updates, anything that goes to the media, floods, they may be the one talking about, hey, the water's rising, people need to start evacuating, you know, doing different things. They handle all that immediately. Does anybody inside that chart talk to the media?
No.
No. You get to say, hey, this news says, hey, you're going to come to how's it going? Who do you tell, what do you tell them to talk to?
Yeah.
Yep, you need to go find somebody else to talk to, amen. Okay. We think the liaison officer does.
Talk to people that aren't media.
Yeah, he's a go-between, right? Keeps everybody happy, all the agencies together. If we're having to get some specialized company out there and get them going, he's the liaison between them, so this commander can do his thing and run the incident. Exactly what he says, he's a liaison officer. There's problems and issues that come up between agencies, guess what? He's the one that help solve those problems. And the big one is, they didn't put the safety officer. He's the most important person out there on the ground, right? Should he be sitting behind the desk, or she sitting behind the desk, or what should his role be? On site, right? What if he finds something, Safety Act is not, finds an act that's being unsafe or something's not correct, what does he have the right to do? He's one of the only person that has the right to say, we're not doing this anymore. Put your tools down, put whatever you're doing down, this is not safe. Okay? In the city of Atlanta, on a structural fire or a structural fire, they start 2 battalion chiefs. The battalion chief of the battalion is in, what do you think his role is? Is the commander. What do you think the other battalion chief coming is his responsibility? He's a safety officer. Most of them pack out, do whatever, roam the fire ground, listen to the radio, monitor fire conditions, etc. They got a high-rise rescue. Where do you think the safety officer? They got a guy dangling off the Marriott downtown. It's a 120-story building. Where do you think the safety officer is going to be? Is he going to be on the ground looking up?
I'm going across the street or something.
He's going to be with the crew working to rescue the guy off the building to make sure everything is safe and et cetera. That's the role of the safety officer. He has the ultimate authority to say, we're not doing this. Stop. Stop. This is not safe. You're doing unsafe access, et cetera. Don't be mocking me back there. So if you don't have, if the incident commander doesn't have a command staff, who fills all these roles? Incident commander does. Okay. Like we were talking about yesterday, you're in a car accident and your supervisor's there. There's a multi-casualty patient incident scene, and your supervisor is ultimately the incident commander. You're out walking around down I-20 without a traffic vest on, and you get whacked by a car. Who's responsible for you getting whacked by a car not wearing your traffic vest? Yeah, me. The first question will be, Mr. Rosie, why that man, a lady not have a traffic vest on? Well, I don't know. It's not an appropriate answer. You're supposed to be responsible to make sure everybody's safe. And then your personal safety should also be part of your safety aspects, right? So this is a true statement. Communication historically has been the weakest part in a major instance. Go read things about Katrina, Rita, all the major natural disasters, certain events. They get even crazier. You start talking about like active shooters and the radios just nonstop talking and trying to communicate. Or what if you're the police department, fire service, and ambulance service, and y'all through these 3 different radio frequencies? Can you really effectively talk to each other on the fire ground, or no? All that's got to be relayed to a dispatcher. But you probably have your own dispatcher. You have your own dispatcher. You have your own dispatcher. And now I got to turn in my chair, pick the phone up, and call you. Then you got to relay third-party information down. And just general on scenes communications is hard. Okay. So in an ideal world, all communications should be integrated. We have a lot of the fire ground channels the fire service has. There's other, free ones out there, free agencies, UWASI has channels and things, but if there's nobody to man the other end of the radio, sometimes we're just using it as a big scene communication radio, right? What does good communication allow for?
Everybody knows what's going on.
Accountability and instant communication, right? Everybody knows. Nobody will say, well, he told me not to do that. Everybody hears the exact order. So if you get, 285 command to Grady unit 242, you say, go ahead. And I'll say, hey, take your ambulance down past instance and pull over to the right. Your patients are going to be down there to the ambulance ramp, at the exit ramp. What do you need to do that for effective communication? So repeat it back. We're clear. Past instant, go down to the on the exit ramp, the Cascade Road. We'll see our patients down there, correct? Affirmative. Now we all know what's going on, okay? A little sidebar, true story. We had 4 geriatric patients leaving the Turner Field at their granddaughter's or grandson's wedding reception, rehearsal dinner. We had 4 idiots from Cobb County steal a car. Cab chased them all around, lost them. Atlanta found them, chased them, and they collided. 4 geriatrics and these 4 clown teenagers hit head on. Okay. There's 8 patients total, really seriously, 4 critical in that car, 2 in this one, 2 not so critical. So how many ambulances do you think we need? 8, right? So we're standing literally out there, putting our plan together, talking to the other supervisor, because I was working that night. We were talking about our plan, what we're going to do. We're going to have everybody come down Capitol Avenue to the blue lot, come all the way across the blue lot, and it would be right. We were in the road, there's a grass strip, and in a parking lot. And we're just going to start as they were escaping patients, take them to the grass, treatment, and then they put them in the ambulance to the hospital. We got all 7 ambulances at one spot, and one group of clowns paid no attention to anything on the radio, and they literally drove right into the middle of the call. They drove around the fire truck. They got hose lines on the ground, hydraulic lines, police cars. They literally drove up along the cars. Now, what does that look for you? If 14-year-old appears and your 2 supervisors are at the right spot, and you 2 are freelancing, not paying attention to the radio, and you drive right into the middle of the call. That's what communication will do. What if they run over somebody? What if you run over a fire line? What if you run over? What if your ambulance got a flat tire? Now we need 9 ambulances to get there when we already had 8 because you couldn't follow directions. That's what happens when you don't have good communication. If you're not paying attention and you're not acknowledging radio traffic. Okay, I mean we're all standing out there doing this. Like, come on now. You see everybody at one spot, but you want to be cowboys there, buddy, and just drive right on down Pollard Avenue and drive right through the scene, around and park and stop and start doing your thing. When we're all doing our thing, you're the only ones not on the same page sheet of music, right? So you really truthfully should check in with your incident commander when you arrive on the scene. Most of the time this happens when you go to the staging area. You got 242, we're clear. We're out staging at Simpson and Ashby Street. That's kind of like your check-in, right? If you have to check in, how many people need to go check in? 1. Why is that? Somebody needs to stay with your box, right? So they can be moved, bring stuff, or whatever. In the worst case scenario, I'll walk back up to you and give our orders because I need to be in the vehicle when we move it, right? Also prevents block-ins and travels like that. If it's a large-scale incident, you report this to the command center. They give you your assignment, and you should report to your supervisor for initial briefing. And there's a lot of record keeping that goes on in this process of the actual incident. Atlanta Fire has a board but they moved engines from staging to here, there, keep track of. And for reimbursement purposes, we just report, check in, do something so you'll know what to do, how to do, and why we're here for, and what our role is. Even if our role is just rehab sector, and it's over there, that's why it's in corner. We know we're over there and we'll go start rehab, right? This is a big one. Accountability means keeping your supervisor advising your locations, actions, and tasks. Okay, if you're assigned to go to XYZ location, do XYZ thing, what should you do when you're done? Tell them, hey, we're out of that location, we've turned the water off, we've done whatever, what do we need to do now? Nobody should be left wondering, what those guys and girls got over and turned that stuff off, what are they doing this? Or you searched a certain part of your grid, or you've done something, when you're done, you should tell somebody, right? And then you can do your next assignment. It may be, hey, report back to staging, or hey, report back to whatever. We've had incidents here before, where y'all transport a patient to Grady, y'all transport a patient to Grady, y'all go to AMC, y'all go to Grady, Piedmont, and your initial might be back, report back to the accident scene. Right, y'all may go on service, y'all may go back to the call site, you may go back to call site, and y'all go back to service, you just do whatever you're told to do next, right? Sometimes everybody goes back to service, right? Sometimes if you work at a smaller service, and you go take somebody to the hospital, you only got 2 animals, and there's 7 more patients, what do you think you gotta do? Go back where you gotta come from. When you get those, you take them back. You're gonna keep doing that shuttle until all patients take care of, or whatever your task is. Maybe our task is to go down the street and evacuate a building. Or see if our building needs to be evacuated. That's what we're gonna do. Right? And then, everybody has a hard time doing this a lot, sometimes, as big services and whatever. When you got limited resources, it's easy. Once the incident is stabilized, we've got patients accounted for, we got some transportation going on, we got the fire suppressed, we got some things going on, that's when you can start putting people back in service. Right? And we don't need your engine crew anymore. Thanks for coming, thanks for playing, have a good day, and we'll crew go back in service, and people start to mobilizing and or rearranging the resources where they need. Right? We can do the same or less or whatever, if things are better, and we don't need everybody here. Okay. Our parents, we've already talked about this. A written disaster plan goes a long way. Having plans in place. It's kind of funny because all the snowstorms and everything I've been involved here, and the time that I've been here, they started out as 2010. It was really when I was the first time I was a supervisor, I think it was. When 2000. 2000.
Well, I think.
No, I gotta go back further than that, Jim. 6 or 7 or somewhere like that, I don't know. Maybe 2005-ish. You know, me and the supervisor got stuck here working 36 hours straight. With little no sleep. With marginal crews. We didn't have a building like we had now, so we had no place to house anybody. We lost power. We had to make arrangements to get batteries charged, these things done. And over the time, we've evolutionized into some sort of a plan of action. We didn't have the logistics resources that we have now with the director, supervisors. We were just the people in charge of a lot of things. And we worked through them. Now pretty much everybody has some sort of role. They usually meet 12, 18, 20 hours before said snow event on Friday. They start mapping out what we're going to do, the resources, where people are going to be, things of that nature. And we start, in the return part of that plan is we start getting the word out, hey, you work Friday night, you might want to come in Friday day, you know, and start making arrangements for people and remind them, you know, if you got dogs, pets, and cats, you might want to make arrangements for that. Bring some February, you know, all those parent things when you get stuck here, that's, you know, lessons learned from the past. And that's always adjustable, right? Right now, it's going to be entertaining. If we have a snow event, this building will be the hotel. Well, one of the big logistics problems will be how do we get people here and how do we get the truck back downtown? We're not exactly on flat land. That hill, I mean, ain't gonna be me. When the engine, you have to have a shovel. Doing our own, maintenance work, right? So, the hospital has disaster plans for internal and external failures like the water leak, which nobody in their million years would ever expected that a 24-inch main going to the hospital would bust. Copious amounts of water will be done. That's why people who, like the hospitals, airports, and other places, they're required by certain federal organizations to do a couple of drills a year. It's also really good lessons learned. Let's change our plan because this ain't what we thought it was gonna be. But the more you can be prepared goes a long way. So, you're an ambulance crew. You pull up in a car accident. Okay? Think back to the very first day in school about that windshield scene size up and doing scene size and stuff. Why is that so important? What you gonna need to mitigate the situation, what else? You know, what do you need to have? Yeah, well, here it goes. Cheater. Yeah, your initial scene size of it is very important. Where are you? What are you looking at for that windshield survey, right? What are you looking at? What potential resources you need, et cetera, and then you make a radio call for help, right? It's a good, you do initial scene size up to the windshield, it may be something like, dang, this ain't good,
This ain't good.
or what the hell? Could be like, you know what I'm saying? Your initial scene size up. Right, so you make your scene size up is like your primary survey of the beginning of the thing, right? Who you are, where you are, what you need, what you need to do. Okay, a lot of things go really wrong with this right here. It all starts with a good scene size up. Okay, if you can't, you got a tour bus on its side down a ravine. Can you tell somebody as soon as you pull up how many patients you got?
No.
But can you relay that, hey, we're 285 southbound, inside, the outside median, 2 miles below University, Cascade Road, over the guardrail, we've got a tour bus on the passenger side, lullabies of 80 patients later. We'll need the fire service, PD, hero, I'll get back with you in a minute. Does that tell everybody where you're at, what you're doing, what you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
Okay? There's a lot that goes into the scene size up. Because what if it's just a two-car, take the ravine off of it, it's a two-car NBC in the middle of the road, overturned, 5 or 6 patients you don't know, right? You can always come back and say, hey, well, 285 command be about, we have 6 patients, we're gonna need 4 medians, and then what, if you're bringing more people to the dance, what do you gotta think about getting them there and getting them out? You gotta think about how you're gonna get them in, how you're gonna get them out. Right, so maybe you need to pay attention, just like we have everybody coming through the blue lot and get in the line, okay? You gotta think about all these things that play a role. And these things all start, they start bad, they're gonna end bad. There's no way for me to drive up on all y'all and correct everything because there's always, it's already evolving. You're driving to where they initially told you to, but that's not the right thing. Y'all are already committed inside that driving path, et cetera. So now we got people scattered about. I'm not Randy McNally Atlas. I don't know a lot about these streets of Atlanta. I know enough to get around and know things. But if we're standing on a fire ground, what can you ask somebody standing there on a fire ground? What is the best way for these folks to get here and what is the best way for them to leave? From experience, I've learned that. Okay, got a bunch of stuff going on. What's going to be the best way to get in? Do you know all the streets, turn around in the middle of the night, standing boots on the ground? Probably not. Those guys know every street in their territory, exactly where they're standing. They're going to tell you, hey, yeah, you need to come from the 600 block of so-and-so. Come down here and we'll probably need to do this on the backside of where there's generator names there. That's important thing, getting people to you and getting them gone. It's just important if you're seeing size up, and you need to have more and more communications, right? Very, very important. So you should be the first person there. You should establish this command. I don't care if you're all a basic EMT truck, crew truck. You can start this process and start some of that. What do you got? What do you need? How you get them there? And do some preparedness, right? Makes life a lot easier for everybody in the world. This must be, I cannot stress the fact, starting early. Even in most places, if we're coming to you, fire service, supervisor here, or wherever, once you get on scene, they assign you a TAC channel, they sign things. I'm your battalion chief or your supervisor coming in. Can I not listen to the radio and may help you while I'm driving? Can I not, you feed me information? So because you also got to think about this, you got a number of pages, you got 26 pages on the ground. What hospital are we going to?
Question.
Huh?
Good question.
You say good question?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. Those are things you got to think about. You take all 26 people burned up, roll over and critical grading. No. Those are all part of the initial scene size up and part of this command and people making decisions. If I'm listening to your radio traffic, the way I did it, I'm listening, I used the con supervisor, hey, you need to find me room for 4 critical and 3 8 walking wounded. And they would in turn pick the phone up and do some of my work for me, report back. So when we got on the ground, we knew Grady was gonna take 2, AMC was gonna take 2 critical. We're gonna take 3 to Piedmont and 1 to somewhere else. So started making my notes, and that I tell them, we don't have all this framework of instant command, but we're using parts of it just going to this day-to-day call. So then or if I say, hey, Junior, you called the hospitals yet? Well, that's a good question. Well, now I gotta stop, or I gotta say, hey, you call Grady. You call AMC and see, report back and see how many people you get in the hospital. Those are all things that go on the scene resolution. We can't get all dressed up for the dance to get our patients loaded, and otherwise, oh, man, what's taking people to? Where we're gonna go? I say, part. It takes messing a few of these up, learning from a few of these, before you get to be pretty efficient in them. Does that make sense? It's always preferred communication should be face to face. In our world, it kind of is, because I'm one of those guys that walk around and you know where I'm at. I'm like, hey, ladies, you know your space a little bit? Y'all are going to Grady. You used to say, Grady it is. I said, yes, it is. Hey, you two boys are going to go to Piedmont. You know, ladies are going to AMC. And my job is to report that, hey, 242 is going to AMC, they get patient load, or regional confirmation, 252 is going to Piedmont, and 392 is going to AMC. So they keep a track of where you're supposed to be going to. In case you forget you're supposed to be going to Piedmont, you're trying to go to Grady, and you try to go to Grady. No, everybody shouldn't be going to the same hospital, okay? We're a good agency because we use no 10 codes, we don't speak in signals, we don't speak in, you gotta get your coda ring out to figure out what somebody's saying, like the police department, plain English. That's another big thing about instant command system. You work for Walton County Fire, and you work for Oconee County Fire Department, and you work for XYZ Fire Department, and you all show up on the same scene. Do all your radio codes the same? If you start talking to these guys about something, they're gonna be like, plain English is always the way to go. Okay? Cell phones is another good form of communication on calls if you need to. But it's preferred face-to-face. Radio works well. Phones. Backup for us would be telephones. If we have a radio malfunction, not a problem. We have to go to telephones. We have no other backup plan. That's probably most places we're going to do telephones. Go back to the 80s. Okay. And very primitive communication.
You keep a phone like in the.
We used to keep a phone, but mostly you will eventually 99% of the time I will have one of you two people's phone numbers as a supervisor, or you will have my phone number, and we just start communicating. We had to get that bad that we had to get down the phones. we have problems.
No, I agree. We used to we call it a bat phone.
Yeah, we used to have one in our supervisor's car.
Yeah.
And the main, the main reason that phone was to call, the hospital emergency manager when they set their incident command. Most of it was, that was like a dedicated phone line. So if she called, I could have direct, I'm gonna have to say, hey, hang on a minute, I'm on the other line. I'm gonna have to be talking on 2 phones. But it had every hospital, a lot of administrators and things of the hospital command, that you can pick that phone up and make one call from the scene, and then they did their job and they reported back. Everybody's got different roles of communications. There's not a lot of stuff out there on medical incident command branch or medical insights from medical events. The book I have in my office was wrote in 1997, I think, 98, after the Olympics. Because everything this is all around fire service based, national events. But even in EMS service, we got an active shooter somewhere and y'all roll up. Y'all might have to be the staging officer for a minute. You might have to be something for a minute. Your partner may have to be something for a minute, but eventually, we got to get people back to ambulances because we can't be transporting people. Because say you're the transport person, right? Because your ambulance is sitting idle, there's no work there to be done. And so luckily there today, there's 3 or 4 supervisors here, there's a logistics person, there's all the right pieces for this puzzle to play out in the day. Now what do you think about 2 o'clock in the morning? I mean, the only resource I got at 2 o'clock in the morning. Me and my trusted sidekick, other supervisor, are trying to manage this, but all them folks are home sleeping in bed, right? Laying their footy pajamas, doing whatever they do. All right? But it's still the same principle. It's a multi-patient medical event. We still got to triage some people. We still got to treat some people. And we still got to get them to the hospital. Same principle. We just may not have all that elaborate org chart, right? So the EMS branch, if you get into the EMS branch, triage, what do you think they do? Yeah, they triage patients, make sure everybody has a safety goal in mind, make sure the patient's safe, you're safe, et cetera. They do all the triage. Who do they talk to? Can y'all see this? Who do you think this person talks to? If there's a problem, who do they report to?
Supervisor.
This person does not talk to people inside his chart. Who's this person talk to? Whoever the sector person is of this, right? I do not call over here to the blue treatment area, green treatment area, and try to tell them orders. See how that works? This person should only talk to who? This person. There's 5 spots in right here. They all report up. And then if there's a problem or they need more equipment, you're out of something, who's this person report to? And then he will report to the next person and it will come back down the food chain. So we triage all patients, work closely with a treatment extrication supervisor. These 2 people work together. I'm sure if I got a green, a red, a yellow, and a black tarp set up area, I'll make sure those 4 people are working. And then those 4 people should make sure their workers are working, right? Safety of everybody. Establish a morgue if you need to, and then there's a lot of paperwork to go on. They got to track everybody, right? Tracking is really important. When this is over with, you not want to call and try to find your mother or your mom, your dad, your sister, brother, your cousins at, right? Should be able to have a tracking system. There's electronic tracking systems now. There's a lot of work that goes on to. So a treatment guy, he's going to have a green, yellow, red tent. He's going to separate the patients by priority. They leave him. They leave here. They go there. He disperses the treatment by priority. Again, safety. Ensures their supplies, personnel. Maintains security of treatment area. If need be, decon can happen here. Documents people treatment. And then reports directly to the branch director. Transportation people, what do you think they do? mean, they move people, you know, probably the most boring job on this chart. You move people. Loading and unloading zone, work with the treatment supervisor, you get the highest priority patients over there. If this guy needs more ambulances, who's he talk to?
Just, or choice of officer.
Yeah, then they go off. Say we decide we're over there, we're like, hey, maybe we need a school bus. So we report it up, it comes back down, we need a school bus. Okay. I've been part of a couple big semi-ordeals here. Man, these things work well if everybody knows the role. If you don't know your role, this thing goes really, really horrible. Okay. And the way I've educated myself on this, on certain incidents, I've asked a lot of questions. When the event was over, asked a lot of questions, or I weaseled my way into their incident from my job into the fire service incident command system and been assigned roles. Okay. A couple, 5 or 10 years ago, Atlanta Area Tech decided to have a job fair. Okay. Sounds pretty harmless, right? Until you take people in suits and dresses and dressed up for interviews and put them in 96-degree weather, lined up out of a building waiting to get inside. What kind of medical emergency do you think you got now? Heat. And it took us transporting 5 or 6 people from there at different periods of time for somebody's light bulb to go, dude, there's a problem over there. You know, if you know what I mean? It's like, there's something not right. So by the time we figured it out, the fire service figured it out. We went over there, met with them. We had the good luxury I was talking about yesterday. We brought our medical director with us. What better person to bring with you to an incident? Your medical director. We set up a transportation sector, triage sector, and a treatment section. And then we had a logistics support group because obviously we would need more IV fluids than we had, ice packs, et cetera. There was only a handful of ambulances. Inside a building, we set a triage area up in the hallway, which was run by somebody, fire service and ambulance. We picked a room to treat people in where it's air conditioning, got them inside, they're basically not naked, but got them out of some hot clothes in front of the medical director. If he said, hey, that person needs IV fluids or whatever, they went to another room for treatment after triage for IV fluids, or if they just need to be cooling, they went to a room to be cooled. If they need to be transported, we figured out a way to transport them. And then I was outside coordinating that with the fire service. And everybody went very good because everybody knew the role. And we had one of the QA officers at the time go to logistics, bring us like 5 cases of IV fluids, 8 cases of ice packs, drip sets, oxygen bottles, things that we would need more on an ambulance. And we worked very well. We were out about 2.5, 3 hours until we made sure we got everybody was taken care of. And then we packed our toys up and went home. But we had all these sectors going on, and everybody just did what they were supposed to, and we moved on, went about our merry little way, and we're like, maybe y'all shouldn't have it. The police department, some other people went to the dean, president of the college, like, you can't do this anymore. We're going to put a stop to this. This is crazy. Literally, I think it was 101 degrees that day. Imagine standing outside in a suit and tie or your fancy Sunday best, Sunday dress in 110-degree weather, with no place to go, in line with about 500 people at his job fair. Yeah, it would be casualties. We didn't really transport more than 3 or 4 people. Good thing about having a medical director, we cooled folks, we gave them some IV fluids, reassessed their vital signs, and we went through there. We got a whole bunch of refusals, and we transported things like anxiety that we didn't do anything with, somebody complaining of chest pain, but for the most part, we just mitigated the incident and moved on. Okay. Triage supervisor, we talked about that. In charge of prioritizing patients. Make sure everybody gets and no treatment. If you had to treat somebody in triage area, what do you think that treatment should consist of?
Tourniquet.
Tourniquet, maybe. And they really should come to you with what? A tourniquet already on them, right? Shouldn't be any treatment. You look at them, you do your triage, and be like, hey, they're going to go to red tent. Red tent. Somebody takes them to the red tent, draws some officers reports back, and we keep going through people. Treatment supervisor, we talked about that. You can have more multi-level treatments, right? You know, cooling, like we did. We had a hydration treatment section, and then we had everybody else treatment section. Okay. transport officer, this guy records everything that goes on. Meets the crew, hey, car wanna go to AMC, what's the truck number, 242 AMC, get the tag number from the patient or do whatever identifier you're tracking with, and he reports that up, so at the end of the day, everybody knows where everybody's going. Okay? You get the opportunity in July, before we miss it, you get the opportunity next July, to look at the Peachtree Road Race, you can see a lot of these things play out. When you get a runner, I wanna know age, sex, and bib number. Okay? If they have their name on their bib filled out, they want like their minimum information, and they track every person we come in contact with. So when your mother, father, sister, brother, cousin doesn't come on the Peachtree Road Race or whatever, and they start calling around, and they get that big command center going, somebody will know is your dad went to AMC, or your mother went to Piedmont, or your significant other went so-and-so. Okay? Is there any, do you as a crew have a choice at anywhere, your hospital choice there? No. I'll say, hey, y'all going to North Fulton. You're gonna say, I don't know how to get there. And I'm gonna say, well, you gotta pipe, you gotta figure it out. Right? Staging supervisor, there's not many people that use staging supervisors, but if you do, I'm gonna be staying in the big parking lot. When you roll up in your truck, 242, I'm gonna make a note, you're gonna walk on, like, yeah, go get in line over there. Most time for us, the staging officer, for me, at least it was when I was on the street, was the comm center. I'm like, who you got in staging? I write the numbers down on a piece of paper. So how you get units, like when they moved out, I crossed them off, so now we only got 2. This person must make sure they have an egress, a way for them to get there, and a way out, away from the incident. Why does it need to be away from the incident?
Well, they're not in the way.
Yeah,
And if the incident suddenly gets bigger, they're not caught in the disaster area.
that's a true statement. Maybe they become the rescuer of the rescuers, right? And you prevent this freelancing walking around nonsense, right? Like we have these school bus accidents, well, we have a lot of school bus kid accidents. We take a supervisor and or the medical director and only the initial crew to the call. Everybody else is 2 miles away staged in a church parking lot. What does that prevent?
Then self-activating.
Yes, that big freelancing part. I know that with a supervisor, a medical director, an ambulance crew, and a fire truck, we can easily mitigate this. And most all ours are neck and back stable pains, and we have a pretty well this down pat. We're gonna go down and get everybody's name. We're gonna get everybody's vital signs. We're gonna count everybody's on the bus. If there's 32 people on that bus, so the bus is secured, nobody gets on, nobody gets off the bus, right? When we get ready to move to another bus, a fire crew will take 5 people and go put them on the bus. And then we'll come back and get 5 kids and they will be walked and escorted to another bus. So when we get done, guess what? We clear this bus to make sure nobody had any of these seats and all 32 people got off. And guess what? We're gonna do another bus. It should be 32 people. Somebody's at the door. Your name is Susie Q. Check. Willie Wonka. Check. David. Check. We have complete accountability. Same thing for the staging person. They're allowing accountability for you being there and what you need to be doing. Okay. You really should be in your truck doing what you're supposed to do. So if we have to move, we can move. If we have to do, we can do. Right? Physicians on scene, man, that is the greatest thing having a physician on scene, right? They function under the different laws and state rules and regs of my paramedic scope, right? They're physicians. They have their own rules and regulations. They're really good at triaging. You have on-site medical control. Ain't no picking up the phone. Ain't no calling anybody. You're looking at your medical director face to face, him or her. And they also can be in the treatment section providing treatment. Another good resource people forget about here is we have 2 units riding around with nurse practitioner on it, right? There's 2 mid-level providers that can come to your call. Were they not a good green tarp treatment area person to treat those bumps, breaks, and screws, and maybe take your greens down to only transporting 2 because they're seeing a mid-level provider, right? Or they could be at the yellow tent, of the yellow thing too, evaluating and doing treatment. And then the third thing that we have really well here is if we need to, we can get the psych truck out there for people with psychological problems at the same time. We're really set up really good that if we had to, we could have a medical director, 2 mid-levels, a licensed counselor there, and we can solve a lot of problems by just everybody showing up. No, our medical director and the Atlanta Fire's medical director work really well together, so there's no bickering and arguing. They respect each other's side of the turf during the COVID wars. As I like to call them, we were all gone for 4 weeks. I went to a nursing home that was notorious for COVID. It didn't matter. Their medical director showed up. They know our SOPs. They help write our protocols. And we just took the lead of that guy, right? He assessed everybody and ended up leaving not transporting anybody. If I'd have been there by myself, we'd transported all 6 of them people. Or we had to do good assessments, contact somebody who contacted somebody who did whatever. It made our life a lot easier with the medical director standing right beside us. Whatever you say, Dave, we're here to do, right? Rehabilitation supervisor. If you have a long, extensive operation or the fire service has the rehab section, we think they're responsible for it.
See the responders in the game.
Yeah, food, water, Gatorade, hydration, rest, what time your engine crew came, what time your unit came, how long you were there. Vital signs are usually taken there. They have parameters, okay? They notice that one of your guys is very hypertensive, they're not leaving them. You don't have to do something with them. It's also a good place to monitor their stress levels. Most of them is fluids. And maybe if it's 147 degrees outside and we're all stuck somewhere, they get a MARA bus there. Got some place for a cooling station. Maybe if it's really cold, they use something for a warming station to get your body back. And then we do what you gotta do. Right? Education and special rescue, we're not really falling underneath that much, right? It usually is underneath the EMS branch in big operations. But historically speaking, on single car accidents, multi-car accidents, and stuff, that falls under the fire service municipality. Okay. Every year, every 3 or 4 years, Atlanta Airport has to do an exercise called Big Bird. They've been doing it since the 80s, as long as I can remember. And that's why preparation is good, and that's why they have these drills. They know every day that the battalion chief at the airport, if a plane hits the ground, they're just going to be the EMS branch director. That's their role. As soon as they show up, it's the commander assigns them the EMS branch. And then everybody there has a predefined role. And all that extrication of the plane stuff, it falls underneath this right here. Morgue supervisor, this has got to be an interesting job right here. Nobody ain't talking to you. True. Okay, people don't complain very much. Who would be the ideal person to run a morgue? You got a multiple patient or an MCI or an active shooter, and you got 14 dead and all this murder road building. Who would be the ideal person to be a morgue supervisor? County coroner, if possible. They could be integrated into your incident command system, or their assistant or whoever's on duty that day. Okay, make sure they're out of public view. We're not laying stacking bodies, on the sidewalk out there in front for everybody to see, because it's pretty identifiable. If you ever see a sheet laying with a lump underneath it, what do you think's underneath that sheet? The bodies. I don't care if the sheet's purple. I don't care if it's pink, orange, whatever color the hospital has that day. Most people identify with a body on top of something that's death, right?
They left the dead body in the hallway when I was at the hospital, but it moved and I kind of freaked out.
Well, they really wasn't dead.
Yeah. She was pulled up and I was like, oh.
Yeah, if a dead body moves, they ain't really dead. You give you that clue right there. All right, really should be out of view, because if you have to think about it, you got an MCI with an active shooter or an explosion at the local mall, and you all know your family members at the mall. Where are you going? To the mall. If there's a school bus wreck or a catastrophic school bus wreck, like the Bluffton bus wreck, say there's been an Atlanta City school bus, where are all the parents on the bus coming?
Right there.
Yeah, they tried to be kind of sneaky there. I didn't notice it on the news or whatever. They tried to line the 6 deceased underneath the bridge of Northside Drive to protect the view. Does that protect from aircraft? No, they were all over the news. Where they were sitting, you could see. But you gotta do what you gotta do. Who's really gonna be ultimately in charge of the morgue at the end of this thing? If it's a terrorist event, who do you think is gonna be really in charge of the morgue? Probably some federal agency is gonna be, because they're all really truthfully overcome evidence of the, if there's shrapnels, percussion, radiation, et cetera. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I didn't get paid today. Everybody else got paid for me.
Who you fighting?
I ain't fighting nobody. Some things crap happens, right? Yeah, eventually, you got a terrorist event or you got something like that, you go outside of those 3 letters, people come, FBI, GBI, all these intelligence people come and stuff. They're eventually gonna be the ones start running some of this morgue and some of these things because they are evidence. They're gonna dig pieces of bones and shrapnel and things out to determine the nature of the bones. So, yeah, I've never been to an accident where we had to have a morgue supervisor, but I would say it's gonna be somebody of a senior position, an official, or they're gonna get, if you work in a rural service, county or somewhere like that, I'm sure the county coroner is gonna be there. They're gonna take responsibility and take care of that and report up to the chain. Because this incident command system, it doesn't have to be just fires, public safety and all these other people. If you, something like the board, county coroner and mayor, they can be integrated in there and stuff of that nature. Or they work with me, the county coroner, me, somebody works with them and does whatever. Why does this slide repeat itself? I think this repeats itself. We've already seen this, right? Yep.
Some of the slides have to be a little bit better.
Yeah, this is the same one you saw this morning. So yeah, 3 or more patients, do the greatest good. And, has to produce multiple casualties. We do what we do. Okay. You and your partner cannot treat and transport all the injured patients at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Should we ever leave the scene and then come back? Take, hey, this guy's really sick, we're gonna leave, bye. No. Because that you want to make somebody really angry. Imagine you all driving up on their scene and watching them drive away with a patient. Now what do you got to do?
Take responsibility.
Yeah, figure out what in the world is going on here. Everybody just leaving. I mean, there is a time and a place for that, but it ain't really your decision to make. Like we're all coming to your call and you say, hey boss, we got this kid out here who's very low sick, critical. We have an ALS engine here. They're doing some triage. You got 4 patients that are still in traffic. This kid was ejected down the interstate. I think we really need to transport. That's a whole lot better way to go about that than we just get there and like, hey, where did you guys go? And the fire service will be like, hey, you guys left just a minute ago. You left what? Huh? You know what I'm saying? There's a way to go about that, but historically speaking, you should never just pick somebody up and just leave. Okay? Unless you're instructed to, or you got to undo circumstances of the call. And Murphy rides the bus. There's always rules for other rules. There's always not a definitive answer. But if you think you're in that situation, God bless America. Pick the phone up or pick the radio up and say, hey, we got this really acute kid that was ejected out of the car. The other 3 patients are critically trapped. I think in our best interest to transport. What do you think? Okay, have a good day. See you whenever you get to the hospital. See you later. You shouldn't just be a cowboy and just be like, hey, we're leaving. Hey, okay. And that happens more than you think it does. Even on small things, 4 and 5 neck and back pains, the fire service is there, and y'all decide you're just going to take 3 patients. Well, who am I looking for when I pull up? You. Who's the other crew looking for when they pull up? You. I'll come to you, what are your needs as a supervisor, what are your needs, what's going on, X, Y, Z, what can I do for you, what can I help you, and you're not there. Now I gotta go talk to a bunch of different people, yeah, y'all just stand by just a minute, don't touch anybody, and we gotta piece this thing back together, okay? Triage, y'all need to take a 10-minute break? You want to? Need to make your bladders hotter?
We got a good ways to go.
No, we're all 38.
Are we all on 38.99? Okay. You want to take a 10-minute break? These aren't as long as you think they're going to be.
Find out soon.
Y'all ready? All right, so some of these are going to get repetitive. There's only so much we can do about hazmat and some of these things, but the meat and potatoes is to understand that it's the main system and the triage. So what does triage mean? Sort, right? It's a brief assessment. You get down there and say, hey, ma'am, sir, how you doing today? My name is John Rose, I'm Dirty Animal Department. Tell me what happened. Blah, 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 blah. Do you do all that?
No.
No. Right? Okay. God bless America and God bless every one of us is never ever going to be put in all those weird situations of people just laying on the ground when you get there. Okay? You're saying brief assessment. We are not carrying on conversations with people and we're not getting attached to people. If you start asking me what happened to this, that, and the other, she starts telling you the story, guess what?
Other stuff.
You're just sucked into the story. Really, you know what happened next. Oh man, you know, you become your job. You have to put things behind you. Your job is say, man, we'll be right back. Are they breathing? They have an airway? Are they bleeding to death? Do we apply tourniquet? Do we need some things? Tag them, move on to the next person. But you can't leave. You gotta go. Somebody's got to wait. You have to find a way to detach yourself. And I've never been put truthfully in that scenario, and I wouldn't want that to be on anybody. Because you might have to mentally just be a strong person and be like, it's gonna be all right. We'll see you later. Okay. Right? Is that not a true statement?
Yeah.
It's done in the field. Where is secondary triage done?
They're at the emergency collection.
At the casualty collection point and or the triage sector or wherever it is. Your job is to run through there, find lifeboats, find certain things, move on, and then there should be people behind you collecting bodies, taking over people, patients to wherever, okay? And then when you get to secondary triage, we can do a more better job, more assessment and find out, and then can people be triaged or red, and when they get to the casualty collection point or somewhere else, can they be re-triaged to a black or a green or a yellow? Yes. You're not tagged green for red for the whole entire incident. Okay, things happen. Maybe they died between here and there. Maybe the person triaged and had limited experience and just tagged everybody red. And you got there like, the guy's got a rose in the arm. He's not a red, he's a yellow, right? Or a green, right? Before I forget, you can share one of these people there. There's if you will search salt triage on the old interweb, there's a government body agency, and I can't think of who it is. For like a minimum fee of $10, you can take the class, or you can take it for free. And this uses START triage. Most people have gone with SALT. Okay. Sort, assess life threats, and triage or treatment. It's a very down and dirty version. Most people have gone with that. That's another big thing. If y'all come from an agency who uses SALT, y'all come from an agency who uses START, we might have two different sets of triage responsibilities. START, pretty much everybody is a red. SALT, you're dead. You're a green if you move, yellow if you got frozen moon nature. You're red if you got some critical, you're dead. When SALT starting, you're gonna find where it pushes you to a lot of people getting red. And that's going to overrun your resources right there, because everybody's not always red. Hey, everybody know the 4 common colors?
Red, green,
Yeah.
yellow, black.
And there's a gray too, I think that's like, they use gray, black, some people say it's dead, gray is expected to die. You got green, yellow, and red, right? So another important person's job in that transport sector is, how many greens do you think can go in a truck? An ambulance? Yeah, as many as you want to put in there, right, as long as you got a way to secure them. How many yellows do you think can go in there?
Me too.
How many greens and yellows can go together? Maybe 3 or 4 greens and 1 yellow, right? How many reds can go together? Pretty much one, unless you have a lot of resources there. If you can put one on the bench or you got a big vehicle, right? So that's another thing when you're the transportation person, you gotta sort out how many can go, right? So what do you think of things underneath the red tag? Yeah. Meaning priority places, ABCs, treat as soon as possible. Yellow, they got time. These are all ABC issues. Burns, chest, abdominal signs of shock, underlying uncontrolled bleeding, compromise. Yellows, burns, live airway compromise, major joint or bone fractures, back injuries, no spinal cord damage. Their treatment's not going to hurt. You can have a broken leg for 5 hours and be okay, right?
It's not a fun day, but you'll live.
Yeah. Okay. Greens are minor fractures, soft tissues, issues that people can walk. They're walking wounded, they can do whatever. And then we don't have to say what black tags are. Death, they got open head injury, brain injury, trauma, injury insurpassable life, respiratory arrest, or trauma arrest. You know, we don't have the resources to be working a full cardiac arrest in the middle of a disaster, right? Keep on moving to the next. Okay, sorry. All right. So tagging is an early assistance in the tracking system and can account for the record of the condition. Tag should be waterproof, easy to read, color. Which one of these two do you think is easier to use?
On the left.
The tape is easier to use, right? These can be done where?
Secondary.
Secondary easily, right? A lot easier to run around with a surveyor's tape around the neck, around their ankles, feet or wherever, and put them identifiable, and then you can do what? If you give somebody a red, what can you do with tape? Put a piece of red in your pocket, put a piece of the yellow in your pocket. So when you get there and say, how many people you got? You go 4 reds, 3 yellows, 2 blacks, and whatever. Okay? If everybody did that, all 3 of us did that, and I had 20, you got 15, you got 10, you had 5. What are we looking at? 60 patients, 65, 70 patients, right? Or you find some way to mark and keep it. Most people tell you, tear off tape, put a piece back in your pocket. That way you can pull them all out and lay them down, okay? Yeah, these really can be done in secondary triage, et cetera, places. If you're gonna upgrade somebody from yellow to red, what do you need to do with the yellow band that's on it? Take it off. I'll make them look like a rainbow when they get there. I have skittles when they get the tree, they got one every flavor, right? So START triage stands for simple triage and rapid transport. So the way START really works is when you pull up on this big calamity, say there's a big bomb that's attending Olympic Park, or there's a mass tragedy in Olympic Park. First thing you're gonna do is you're gonna say, you call for all the patients that can easily hear you and can walk to go to that corner. Hey, everybody can hear me, sound of my voice, whatever. Hey, all y'all go over there. Okay, these are the hardest people. Those people are the hardest to corral. Or they're gonna wander off and they're gonna be wherever else and whatever. So if you have somebody that can like take control of those people, it'd be really good, right? Get all those people. Okay, those are called walking wounded. Right. The next step is go towards all the patients that are not walking. Okay, in SALT, they teach that anybody who's waving, they're laying on the ground waving, what can they presumably be triaged as?
Yellow.
Yellow.
Because they're conscious.
They have some purposeful movement, conscious of ability to be waving or screaming or waving. So if you get everybody to wave and you get all those people kind of out there, where should you start at?
The ones that aren't.
The ones that aren't waving, the ones that aren't walking. Okay, you just work your way, to find people, right? That makes sense? And you gotta take yourself and put yourself in that scenario where the culture shock, if bad things are happening around you, be able to consciously think, do these things, and do right. So when you get to the non-walking wounded, you're gonna assess the respiratory rate, starts all about respiratory rate, hemodynamic status, think of RPM, respiration, pulse, and movement. That's what their big acronym is. And then neurological status, okay? And you'll see in a minute where a lot of these folks are gonna be reds. Okay? And I never noticed that till the other day. They use jump start triage for pediatrics, anybody 108 or weighs 100 pounds or less. Starts with the same way, beginning with your walking wounded, and there's some various differences right here in those two. And their flow chart algorithm, you'll see in a minute, it's a whole lot bigger than this thing. Okay. So some considerations, people who are hysterical, disrupted to the respirator may need to be handled as an immediate priority. Responder may become sick or injured during the respirator should be handled as an immediate priority. If you fall and break your leg, or you fall and become contaminated, or you become part of the process, you should become an immediate priority to take care of. You need to be transported first, be taken care of first, et cetera, because you take care of your own in that time of need. Okay, that makes sense? If you're running along a triple curve and knock yourself unconscious, we should be like, hey, just read that here, we should keep on going. Okay? That's not the way that works. We should stop. Short of her falling out of a heart attack of an MI, unconscious, unresponsive pulses, we should make you a priority. Okay? If that happens, you're probably not going to become a priority because we can't dedicate 6 rescuers out there to be doing CPR, provide aid. But minor injuries, or if you become contaminated, you should be like in front of the line. We take care of first. So here it is, destination decisions. Remember I told you, all these things are kind of going on simultaneously. All reds and yellows should be transported by a ground or air ambulance. And in large situations, a bus may be used. Okay. And in the immediate priority patients should be transported 2 at a time until they're all transported out of sight. These are all decisions being made inside the branches and stuff in incident command. APD is good. I mean, Atlanta Fire is good for us. They have all the bar contacts. They have all the school contacts, and we say, hey, I think me or the battalion chief or whoever was sitting there, I think we need a bus. Or about that fast is a bus. Okay. This is part of their preparedness and all that. Have these contact numbers. Okay. We've transported a lot of people on MARTA buses before. Okay, a lot of people. A lot of people on MARTA buses. Or when I worked on the weekends and nights, I called one time, about 10 or 12 walking wounded, and a couple of minor injuries, not so bad. Your ambulance transported the 2 that were not so critical, and then you were the extra person that day on the ET ambulatory van. You come out there and get 15 of them druggers and be going to the hospital. It's all about your using resources and things around you. You can use 9 ambulances. Or if you get that 115 passenger van out there and mitigate 9, poof, no, now we need 2 ambulances instead of 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Those are things you need to think of. And then the bottom one, immediate priority patients should be transported 2 at a time until they're transported. So you got to take 3 yellows. What's the big deal? You really can't take 2 reds. You got airway burns, and you got blunt chest trauma with pneumothorax and an amputated leg. Somebody's not going to need appropriate treatment. Okay, if it comes to that, you just gonna have to cowboy up, put your big boy and girl pants on, and go handle your business, but it shouldn't be that way. But you can take as many greens as you need, but seatbelts appropriate for the ambulance, right? Fill it up. After you get through there, who's the last people to get transported? Out of all these people, who's the last people?
Black guys,
Out of yellow, red, and green. Who's the last people?
green.
Greens. Greens are last. Greens are last, right? Green people go last. They're the ones that can stay there longest. And then for the people who want to talk about black tags, they stay there until whatever policy procedure is. For us, it would probably be turn them over to the Atlanta Police Department. And the police department probably turn the deceased over to the Fulton County Community Office or somebody like that. Or we turn them straight over. So let's watch a little video. Oh, yeah, it is. Mouse over here. Everything starting to move.
Yeah, I think so. It's a 20-minute video.
So these are the people, disaster management system. They're doing the salt trio. I don't know what's about to happen here.
She's coming.
Grandma's coming. Look, she's Facebooking and driving. She's Snapchatting and driving. Oh my gosh.
Engine 5596, citizen right there, but level boulevard is not.
They got some fast big doors.
That's 55 is on scene, single vehicle rollover into a crowd.
Manager copies engine 55 on scene, single vehicle rollover into a crowd.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and start triage, get back to what you need.
See how all these parts are playing together.
We have approximately 10 victims, one trap. Upper issue at the rescue response and one engine, one ambulance, and one unit supervisor, level 1 MCI.
Manager copy engine 55 on scene, reporting approximately 10 victims with one patient shot. Copy upgrading this to heavy rescue. Copy additional resources. Copy level 1 MCI. This will be the levy incident. Engine 61, truck 54, squad 50, 9504, 9497, 9693, EMS 44, EMS 51, battalion 12, battalion 54, respond to the levy incident, level 1 MCI, Levy Boulevard, Academy Drive, command.
MCI going, we got approximately 10 patients, so I'd like to assign you MedCom, and I'll have your partner assist my crew with triage. Okay? Finish on my road, okay? Thank you. We've got a level 1 MCI going, about 10 patients right now, no specific information yet. I've assigned MedCom and the other medic I've assigned to assist my crew with triage. Yeah, why don't you take on triage needed responsibilities? We've got a much more active now on the number of victims and their categories, and oversee the movement of all those patients into the treatment area. Carry your folders, go to work, and I'll back you up with the group as soon as I can. ACMC base at 11:35, go ahead.
ADCMC base, this is Medic 491 with a level 1 MCI. How do you copy?
Clear 481, go ahead.
Okay, we are currently at the intersection of Durley and Post with approximately 12 victims that are in the process of being triaged.
Copy on I'll start pulling for bed availability, and please call us back when the triage is complete. You can see quicker now, but fixes. Okay, what do you have?
At 3 minor, 1 delay.
That's gonna be two meetings. One delayed, and one deceased. One delayed, and one deceased. All right, Chief, I got some more information for you. I have a total of 2 immediates, 2 delayed, 3 minor, and we have 1 deceased. 2 immediate, 2 delayed, 3 minor, 1 DOA for a total of 8 days. Correct. Here I could use, I could probably use another Indian company, especially for the immediates. I'll use one more, go ahead, okay, working, okay. Yeah.
Director of WIC, triage is complete. We have 2 immediates, 2 delays, 3 minors, 1 DOA for a total patient count of 8, and that count is established. I'm assigning you as the treatment unit leader. Your best and clipboard are on the hood of my vehicle. We need you to identify and establish the treatment area and get back to me with resource requests. Hi, Mark. I'd like you to take on patient transportation unit leader. We have 2 immediate, 2 delayed, 3 minor, 1 DOA. So we have 7 to transport. And we have a total of 4 ambulances either on scene or en route. Let me know what additional resources you need. Medcom's in place with 491, and I have a best and clipboard up front for you.
ECC base.
Okay.
Hey, ECMC base, this is Medic 491, this is Medcom. This is with a follow-up call on our MCI area.
Medic Engine 2, I'm assigning you to the treatment unit. Report to Captain 61. He is the treatment unit leader.
You're going to be ambulance coordinator, and I need you to identify an ambulance staging area.
Hi, guys. I want you to work at ALS in the treatment unit. Report to Captain 61. He is the treatment unit leader. Guys ready?
I'm not seeing on that one.
WIC, all patients transported, is technically all equipment released.
What's everybody's span of control? Is that really normal? Everybody reports back up. Yeah, they make this an ideal world. I mean, imagine doing this with not all those people. This person may have to be all those people, right? This person may have to be overseeing that with 4 people, and you multiple roles for these. Think about your supervisors here and stuff. We do a lot of that. Just on the fly with the comm center and doing what, knowing things and talking and communicating with people. And then that triage system comes with the fire service and first arrival unit, and then the triage unit kind of mixed and processed together. There's going to be an overview of STAR. Okay. All right. So I said everybody's roles play together, and the goal is to transport people, in a timely manner without dragging this thing out for 5 hours, 2 hours, right? A disaster worldwide event. What kind of disaster could we have here?
Tornado,
Hurricane, remnants of a hurricane, tornadoes,
wildfires.
wildfires.
I remember that one that was happening in Tennessee a couple years ago.
How about Atlanta? We have an earthquake, we use it on a fault line, right? Then figured out the other day, you can go one step over. Pandemics is a disaster too, right? We're living in one as we speak, correct? Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah, floods, fires. Huh?
Flooding in an ER.
Flooding in the yard? That's a disaster. So your role, you respond, you tasker, and report to IC, incident commander. Casualty collection area may be established in a disaster, overwhelming number of casualties. Will be a coordinated effort through the IC command and all branches. If this really happens, my role is going to be minimal. There's going to be a bunch of people who will be making decisions, and it's going to be, hey, go over there and manage the ambulances, or manage this triage here, okay? Same process, report in, get your assignment, go do your assignment. If you have any problems, you report to the person in front of you, and eventually add this incident commander. You shouldn't be in the red triage area calling this incident commander unless your life or limb, or there's a significant problem that requires immediate action. Everybody has a supervisor, everybody has a person to report to. What do you do if you arrive to a hazmat scene?
Don't go into the scene.
Yeah, don't go, right? That's why in the next couple of slides about learning how to read the ERG, the big orange book, or you have the book on your phone, you don't use things. So if you pull up to a warehouse and they tell you, you can't answer the question, you know the answer to the question, okay? You pull up to a chemical plant, you pull up somewhere, and they tell you they got some people in there with burned eyes and stuff of that nature. Do we need to go inside the threshold of the door?
No.
No, what can they bring? Does anybody know what they can bring you to help your job be easier?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the NDS sheets. Because who can you give them to? The big red truck or the fire incident commander who reports there with their first in engine. Right, that's gonna be their first words. Where's your MDS sheet? Same thing if it's a tanker truck, an overturned truck, or something that's hauled, man, they wanna know what's on board, right? Placards are good, but do you think everybody marks their trucks right? What was that placard truck rolls over? The truck rolls over, what do you think the placard does?
Not on the truck anymore.
It could change what's in the truck, right? The only way you get good with the ERG and looking at things, you know, without taking a full hazmat class, understanding what every symbol means. When you're driving down the road and you see a big truck, glance at it. You know, if it's got a big arrow with an arm and stuff dripping on the arm, what does that mean? Yeah, we probably don't want to be up there tasting it or sticking our fingers in it and doing anything else to it, right? Rushing into a scene can be catastrophic, right? If you become a victim, what have we done for the greater good?
Well, one less provider, one more patient.
That's exactly right. Now we gotta take care of your crazy self. Right? And if you overcome, you can't treat nobody and require emergency care yourself, and we'll just keep on and on and on and on, right? Everybody should really be the first hazard material awareness level, which basically makes you understand how to read placards and makes you understand how to read ERGs and know some model roles. Then they go to hazmat technician and operations level, then you're a full-fledged glowworm and can function in almost any environment, okay? And what this awareness level does is just understanding hazardous material substance, what risk, and understanding what potential outcomes. You're just there to say, hey, stop cars from going somewhere, maybe sort people of the building, you know, do the bare minimum to the other level of training providers get there. Okay, this has not been every one of my area fortes. This doesn't interest me, but there's some people who are just eat up with being on this hazmat team and knowing all this craziness. This never was my forte. Okay, but you should. Areas of training, you should be able to recognize the presence of that, right? Identify it if possible. Understand your role at the awareness level. Your role really is to make sure you're safe, people around you are safe. If the thing says secure perimeter 100 feet, maybe you can start some of that without, you know, the fire service and the PD there, but you're going to do very, very minimal. Wind checkage, where do we need to stand? Where's the wind blowing? Do we need to be upwind, downwind? Things like that. Is it inhalant injury? Is it corrosive to the skin? Is there an explosion factor? I mean, you can't just go in there and start squirting water on something on the ground or in there to make sure you don't contain a leak or try to dilute something. They may be reactive to water. And then you're going to find out really bad and you're in a bad spot, right? The big one is determine the need of additional resources, yes, and notify them to get the appropriate people there to help you, right? And then you become an assistant role. Again, it's all about, you know, handling, not proper handling, storage, malfunction, packaging, disposal, anything can happen. For about 2 years, Georgia State was notorious about moving their lab. They wouldn't like it in this building, so they pack it up and move it down to another building. What do you think happened every time they moved that lab? They always were out there for some kind of chemical exposure because they put this stuff in big 55-gallon barrels and the little beacons and all this stuff. What happens to that barrel? It gets turned over or something, guess what? Somebody goes, hey, we need to open this. That's what comes out of there, a form of something, and then people are contaminated or whatever, we're out there. The whole world's out there to identify the substance, decon, and do the substance, right? These are not fast-moving scenes. You can tell us that for a first-hand experience. They got to get Dawn orders, somebody goes in with a wand first, they go into the air samples, do this, try to identify the chemical with their little, what's that thing called, identifies chemicals?
Explosion meters.
Yes, they go in there and then they come outside and report, hey, blah, 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 blah. Then they gather a plan of how to mitigate that through their scope. Maybe they need another hazard material team. Maybe they need the EPA gets on a larger level. And then where these things are slow to, Georgia Tech has a lab, like Georgia Tech, if you've never been there, it's 3 stories. And they have all kinds of stuff in there. And that's the most cleanest, immaculate building you'll ever be in. But they do stuff every day over there. Okay? None of these things evolve quickly. This is a 4 or 5 hour operation here of moving, slowing, resources available. You only can be in a suit for so long before you have to be rehab. And they got to resuit some other people out. They got to be decon to get out of the suits. This is a slow process. You have a train, bus crash, any substance leaking from a tanker or a car, a fire or other emergency in an industrial plant, refinery, you know, gas line rupture, even simple gas lines. If they cut a gas line over here across the street, God bless us all, we ain't leaving for hours. We're not. We're just gonna all be friends and be there for a long period of time. Okay? Above ground, underground, gasoline, loose leakage, methane products, vehicle crash resulting in rupture of a gas line. It can be anything. It's hazard materials. Okay. This is a bad day right here. This little 15 passenger van is some sort of tanker. That is not a good thing, right? And then this is probably some sort of liquid gas escape for some sort of methane or plant or something, and then caught fire. That's not good neither, right? That has a high potential of a large explosion. That flame sucks. You know what Beirut looked like the other day? That's what we're all about to look like where we're standing. Oblivion. Yep. So if you roll up on this thing as the first crew ambulance, what do you need to do? Yeah, do a single survey from where? Single size up from where?
Nice and far
From
away.
here, right? Maybe ambulate through the woods if this is clear, do some sort of survey, see if you can identify a placard, see if you can identify something, and then we need to get out of there, right? When the big red truck's probably gonna get there, and they're gonna get out there with binoculars, they're gonna zoom down, see if they can bring something from their reference sources. And just hope that, there's not a lot of people on that bus, right? They need help. Do we have any type of level suits to be around here?
No.
Not really. You're gonna start making some moral and ethical decisions right then, right? Chemicals, man, anywhere, warehouses, hospitals, laboratories, industrial places, bowling alleys, Home Depot, garden stores, restaurants, every place has got hazardous materials. Everywhere. And we got propane tank out there in our warehouse. Why? Because we got that grill. Why? Because we got a good hot dog. That propane tank hazardous material? Yes. This building catches on fire or something, we probably need to be obligated to kill people with it. Think about Linda and all the chemicals he has in his room to clean. He's got ammonias, bleaches, all that stuff. It doesn't have to be all them fancy methyl stuff. Bleach, cleaners. People, you know how many calls you respond to where people take bleach and mix it with something else to clean something? Well, bleach is not meant to be mixed with pine sol and other cleaning agents. So what do you think that makes inside your residence?
That's what I would
It makes a nice gas. What do you get when you're in your bathroom scrubbing? Dizzy, lightheaded, et cetera. Those are simple forms of hazardous materials calls, right? Doesn't have to be something major. Okay, senses can be safely be used, sight and sound. Is it safe to say that if you cannot smell something, you're not standing in a hazardous material site?
No.
No. You can't just walk in like, we don't smell anything, so it must be good, right? Yeah. A lot of gases are undetectable by smell. Next thing you know, you're sloughing skin, you're having problems, or you're dead.
Just want to go take a nap.
Yeah, I just want to take a nap, it's a little sleeping thing, right? Use any of your senses you bring into approximately killing precaution avoided. Clues, things that we say are in distance. What did the people tell you happened before, was happening before, right? Those are in the police world called clues those you should be putting together, and you should, if you're already in that environment, what should you do? Leave. If you're not yet entered that environment, what should you not do?
Enter it.
Enter it. Stand outside, look pretty, do what you're supposed to do, and be like, let's call that guy over there. Gather all the intelligence you can gather before the other people come there, so you can speak intelligently, but you should make yourself safe, okay? Containers, we're gonna go through a couple of different containers. As any vessel that holds the material, that can be size, type, construction, bulk or non-bulk. We're gonna give you some examples. Volume. Okay. That's a whole lot of stuff. 119 gallons to 703 gallons of methyl ethanol, bad stuff, right? It can be corrosive, flammable, food grade, oxidizers. I do think when you start seeing these trucks driving down the road, man, make mental notes of what they look like. When you get somewhere, use your ARG, look at that, put that scenario in your brain. There's a rail yard. We sit in a very big rail yard right here, one of the big rail yards in the south, down by headquarters on the boulevard. There's a rail yard there. There's big signs that say no explosives pass through here. Does that mean some jacktarding made his way into there with explosives or a tanker? No. That should still be on the high index of your suspicion. Even though it's not supposed to be there, it could be there. And I don't know what they do with that rail yard, but they have a lot of danger signs there. Do you know what they do there?
No, we did all our switching and checking.
They do something down there, and they have a lot of danger sign placards. If you come off Memorial, make a right on Boulevard, and when you get up underneath Cotton Mill Office, it sits right up in that area. There's the entrance to it. And they have a bunch of danger signs there. Okay. I mean, if you're reading that, pulling into somewhere or one of these yards, that should really put your high index of suspicion of alert. You know, or if you get to a point that says, you cannot access point A from this far without XYZ protective equipment, you probably don't need to be going past XYZ without said protective equipment, right? The chemical spills and things I've been on up here, they usually somebody meets you outside. I'm sure y'all have procedures where somebody met the people responders outside, even if you got 5 people in the shower or they were washing their eyes. We never laid eyes on them, but you were the plant supervisor or the liaison, somebody, you came outside, gave a good report, had some MSDS sheets, and then we make plans on what we need to do. Hey, they've been in the shower for 10 minutes, they got 5 more minutes to go, we've done X, Y, Z things. And then you pass that information off to somebody else, and then they make the determination where they go, right?
You're right though, about our rail car place. When I moved down 16 years ago, we used to run hazardous rail cars to downtown Calhoun. And they would sit there, sometimes CSX would park them, right? You got PD cars there, Styrene cars there.
So here's some different types of containers for you to look at. There's some pressurized or non-pressurized containers.
Those are cool.
Non-bulkies, good storage containers, bags, paper sacks, chain, pesticide, fertilizer comes in bulk items, right? I'm sure they're gonna figure out how many pounds of ammonium nitrate were in that place in Beirut that made that nice large hole in the ground.
Supposedly like 3,000 tons or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So if 3,000 tons of that, what do you think of normal standard 500, a 50-pound bag, 100-pound bag? What kind of hole do you think that could make? Yeah, it's gonna make a nice hole, right? Here's some, you think, how much do you think hazard material can be in a plastic container?
Enough to ruin your day.
Not the very day. Common pesticides, things of that nature, gasoline. Yeah, all kinds of things. So when you get to this tracking and the placards and the marker system, this is really important to have a basic functional idea of how an ERG works or the emergency response guide works. Okay. So when you open up this emergency response guide book, it's got a whole bunch of valuable information in front. It's got all these different placard combinations. All these numbers refer to the resource guide that's in the book. They also have a page of
Orange book, right?
the orange book. Well, this does have, they also should have a picture of all different kinds of transport devices like railroad cars, tractor trailer trailers, things of that nature that will help you identify, if you know, at least, that should not be explosive, that should not be corrosive, they are carrying milk at the worst case scenario. Does that make sense? All these placard combinations are bad. You know, anything with a skull and crossbone on it, probably should do the thumb method and get away. Anything that's, says radioactive, you probably need to be away. As general, toxic gas, flammable combustibles, explosion, these are all bad things to say danger. We probably should use those as a clue. Even if the truck is overturned, the placard is there. It's what it is until proven otherwise, right? You have the NDS sheets in your hand or some form to tell you what's in that truck. They're all considered dangerous until otherwise, right? And they're usually diamond-shaped placards, indicators, and the smaller ones are versions of the placards. They can be put on boxes, they can be put on whatever else. There's some good placards, okay? Bad things happen, here's the number to look it up in the book. Guide number. They should all have a guide number. That's a threat level 3. Highly indication of being explosive. They all have things to read. How many knows what these people say? Know what these things say? Yeah. Flammable, poisonous, and whatever. Is that enough to say, hey, we do not need to be going there?
Yes.
I mean, that's a big clue to be like, oh, no. If you're standing somewhere, your shoes are melted to the floor. You probably shouldn't have walked wherever you're walking, right? You develop this strong eye irritant, your eyes start watering. We've gotten a little too close to where we need to be. Okay. DOT does not require all shipping chemical shipments to be marked. Most cases, the cargo tank will be marked, right? It's required. And they should have some marking there. You're just not going to drive up and down the road with some identifiable explosive or chemical without some form of marker or some form of knowledge, okay? You're not going to run into a tractor trailer truck full of corrosive battery acid and stuff. You should not. Unless they're trying to be sneaky and trying to do something that they're not supposed to be doing, right? So this ERG book, you can download this on the whole interweb and get your own copy on your phone. Every ambulance is required to have one of these on the ambulance. It tells you a lot of different things about stuff. Okay. You can get the app. They got an app. You download the ERG app. There you go, buddies. Everything's good. I strongly encourage you to get this. Look at it. Be familiar with it. It's going to go through it. The MDST sheets. Okay. You should all be aware where they are. Even for us, you know, at headquarters and things, we have a shop. It's a good example. They got brake cleaner, brake fluid, and transmission fluid, oil, all this stuff. They have to have MSDS sheets for the stuff that are in there. Eye wash station, and certain things that are on there that have chemicals. Okay. Shipping papers. If you can get that from the driver of the vehicle, as long as he's not incapacitated or not in safety, that's a world of wealth of information. Okay. They also, the drivers know they have certain procedures to follow. They have a crash. They should not be getting out of that truck without the manifesto, MDST sheets and stuff of that nature, so everybody knows what the cargo is. Okay. Chemtrack, this is a good organization. I think the number is 1-800-CHEMTRAC. If you get somewhere and you don't have any idea what to do, you don't have an ERG sheet, you've got an MSD sheet, you can call these folks and they can tell you everything you need to know about, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Fire service still, even with a manifesto in their hand, you know who they still call?
Yeah.
These guys right here. You've probably called them before.
Yeah, it's like the poison control.
Yes, the Poison Control Center for Chemicals. Okay, so the ERG identifies things by a couple different ways. They have, if you have the chemical name, you can look it up by chemical name, and it'll tell you the guide number to go by. If you have a placard number or whatever, it will tell you the guide number to go to. And inside the guides, it tells you things of what the warm zone should be, what the cold zone should be, how, if it's a spill chemical, what this thing tells you everything you need to know within reason to start mitigating that problem. Okay? So if you don't know anything about anything that's in that truck and you can't get a placard number, you can't get the chemical name, what you do need to know is guide 111 in the ERG. It is set up for the worst case scenario. It has the biggest evacuation range. It has everything is to the max until you can identify the chemical. So guy number 111, all those fails, the very first one you got, read it and follow it. Where some chemicals are evacuated a quarter mile, this thing might be evacuated 2 miles. And hot zone needs to be this. It's all the maximums that you can figure out what's going on to make everybody safe. You imagine it's 75, 85 southbound, it's Spring Street, it's Spring North. A tanker truck turns over. That's a whole lot of mess because right off the interstate coming southbound, there's all the Georgia State dorms, Georgia State campus. They're all going to be.
So 2 miles is a big distance in the city.
Even a quarter mile.
Yeah.
From the interstate. That's all the way to Techwood Drive. And there's a lot of big buildings and big things. Now, you work in rural or work somewhere where there's 2 farmhouses and some minimal things. It's not as big as deal. That's why these things take a long time to develop. Because you're going to do a whole lot of evacuation, you're going to do mitigation at the same time, identification, all these treatment things at the same time. Right? Yeah, look, if you can't identify, look for things of cloud, strange looking smoke, leaks, spills, odors, all those things are big clues that you probably don't need to be standing where you're at. And that's where a good windshield survey, when you're driving up on this and paying attention, hey, that looks like a tanker truck. It's on this ground. There's something coming from it. Use the pedal on the left, stop your ambulance. Right? Right. That's not where we need to be. Sounds funny, but people forget. I mean, these are not everyday calls. You gotta have a whole cadre of information, a whole knowledge base, and that's why I said yesterday, and earlier this morning, I've just learned on all these calls, asking questions, paying attention. You don't have to be an expert in everything, but you gotta know how to function in different environments, right? You wanna be parked uphill and up or upwind, right? Why is that?
You don't want it to move into your face.
Yeah, you don't want it on you, right? So, everybody. Yeah, we need to be that way. Right? Or, oops, name. Don't do that. What happens if you enter the scene, don't leave until you've been cleared. God bless America. If you enter the scene, you're contaminated, guess what? You're going to be decon like everybody else. Your hands out, sir. You got problems. Right? You become patient. Okay? Don't be touching stuff. If it's icky, sticky, and it ain't yours, guess what? You don't need to be touching. Okay? If you don't know what it is, don't be touching. It's going to be okay. Somebody's walking to you and their skin is sloughing off. What do you need to do to that person walking towards you?
Don't touch that either.
Stop. Sit down. Okay? You don't need them to come up to you and say, "Oh, sir, let me help you." What have you just done to yourself? Yeah, now your skin's falling off. And this is a repetitive cycle of crazy, right? If you need to use your public address system to do so, to communicate, any of those are direct them to move. Establish zones, warm zones, cool zones, and hot zones. That's going to be established by hazmat technicians, fire services, and other people. Our job is to be where in this, what zone should we be in? Cold zone, we have no protection. Okay, usually hot zones, the instant decontamination takes place in what zone? Warm zone, and they come out to where? Cold zone to the treatment triage area, evaluation area, right? So there they are. This is going to be you, way over here. Upwind, all the appropriate places to stage and do that. Okay. Thought about that. These guys are probably coming out of an area, getting washed. Warm zones where all the work goes on that's not part of the incident. Decontamination. We're going to have a conversation about something. We come out of the hot zone. Where's our conversation going to take place? In the warm zone. We need to make sure everybody's okay. We're par. We got all our people. Change out tanks if you need to go back into an area to work. And then you got the cold zone where it's safe for personnel not need any specialized clothing. It's where all the people in charge are at. Everybody's doing the coordinated everything, staging area, treatment area, triage area, all those areas are in the cold zone. So your job, again, repeats back to the same thing every now and again. If you shouldn't be in the warm or hot zone, we're gonna provide the same thing. Treatment, triage, transport, and maybe in a rehabilitation center. Okay, those guys really truthfully have to have vital signs pre-suit and post-suit. Recorded vital signs, not no, you look good, buddy. There's all kinds of parameters that can't be. Okay, can't put somebody in a suit that's hypertensive. It's not gonna happen. Okay, when they come out, get out of the suit, get washed, they go to rehab, they get another set of vital signs. They have to sit for a certain long period of time, multiple sets of vital signs, maybe EKGs depending on your department standards, and then they get the blessing to go back and do any variation of that to report it to the incident commander or the safety officer. So John doesn't go back to the area. Right? Toxic levels, obviously like anything else, big numbers mean what?
Bad,
Bad, little numbers mean what?
less bad.
That's bad. Okay. PPE's level of protection, you got your class A suits. It's the most hazardous. It's fully encapsulated. It's got chemical resistance, body. They got a full SCBA underneath there, special equipment. The radios are sealed. Sometimes they switch to a different radio system, like a chest mounted harness or something where they can communicate. They got these big bulky gloves on, like a glowworm, and it's harder to do things and do. It's level A suits. You got level B, requires non-encapsulated protective clothing, designed to protect against positive material, requires breathing device, their own supplies, SPCBA and habitation. That's something you can put a Tyvek suit with a PAPR or something of that nature to work. If you don't need a PAPR, which you really should be fully encapsulated, sometimes they break them down where you just need to have Tyvek suit with facial protection or some sort of non-respirator or something of that nature. Class C, non-portable closed face mask for inhaled air. And then Class D, we're all in our Class Ds right now, right? We offer no protection. Therefore, we should not be operating anywhere that requires anything of a CB or A level suit. And here's some examples of such, right? It's Class A, Class B, Class C, and then here's us. Right? And on some of these scenes too, they'll be like here, this guy's operating in the hot zone, they bring it out, or these guys may be the transporter of the barrel. They don't need, it's either identified, not identified, but their level of exposures are low, so they don't need to be fully encapsulated, right? Does stuff bring back memories?
Yeah, I think I'm that comes over.
Yeah. The only reason why I don't like doing hazmat,
It's a bitch word, that one.
That is
I like
hot.
working, man, that is hot.
that is hot.
Oh, it's hot.
That is hot, and I like to be cool. If your nose itches,
Good shit.
if your nose itches right there,
I gotta go to the bathroom.
you're done. You're done. You're done. You can't touch anything. You're just sneezing and doing all this because your nose itches, right? So when you get your patient any trauma, result of explosion, vehicle collision, or whatever needs to be treated, and the injury from a toxic substance. You know, we work in a pretty good environment that every hospital downtown has a hazard materials plan. This is an early notification of hospitals, so they can set their decon up. Usually if they've been deconned on the scene, great, you still decon them, because would you not want to bring it to the hospital?
Whether they would have
Yeah,
one.
funk. Right? So they'll set up early activation for these guys, so that it takes 35, 45 minutes roughly or so to set that tent up, mobilize the team. They do them on, if they're at Grady, they always do it on the last two parking spots. If they're looking at the ramp on the right, because that door leads into another shower room, so they can decon them get them somewhere, get them dried, sheeted, or maybe they just need to go through that process and then take a shower in the shower room, okay? The early activation, just like with any call, aircrafts, early activation, let see how number of patients, this is really important.
And I did hazardous waste cleanups, Bechtel Engineering. I just do new cleanups and stuff like that. So their decon was like you're saying, multiple scrub out, scrubbing bodies. And then
Okay. Serious injuries and death from hazardous material result from airway and breathing problems. Okay. In some cases, hazmat team may find the patient immediate needed transport, needed treatment for decon area set up. This person's kind of screwed because you can't provide care, effective care at a Tyvek Class 8 or abuse. Okay. Part of your role, your supervisor or the EMS branch director and some of the transport sectors is make sure these people are appropriately deconned before they get paid. Okay.
All these things that we just have in our ambulance.
Yeah, they're not on ambulance, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're in a fire-based service or you work with a service that your ambulance is attached to a hazmat team or something of that nature. Most EMS providers, this is well outside of their scope. We're there for the treatment and the transport of people sick and injured people. That's it. Is that all 99 of them?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Is everybody good? So I need to see if Kayla has an ERG book. We need to look at that real quick. That's really, yeah, in Rex room. They're not in there. No. So we'll see if we can find an ERG, because that's very important that everybody looks and understands how to read that, because you can get on your app or get the app. There's different ways to read that book. You know, the chemical name, you know, and just maybe the guide number, they all refer you back to something. They all refer you to a guide, but there's three ways to get to the guide. Okay? And what's the one you use? Guide number what, if you don't know what it is? 111. That's the test question of the day. Okay, so they're all orange, or easily identifiable. When you open up the book, it says how to use this one, step one on the book. Identify the material using the following thing. 4-digit number, the placard, the orange panel, or the shipping package, or the name of the material. Step 2, identify the 3-digit guide number, and then identify the yellow box. You can be done by the yellow pages, the blue pages, or the green pages. And then if your reference does not be found, you believe to be in danger. 111 for unknown chemicals, 112 and 114 for explosives. So the green the blue section is by name. The yellow section is by identification number of the chemical. And the orange section has the guide numbers. So let's just say, go to the yellow section, and all we see is a placard labeled 215. 2215. Okay, they're in numerical order. Okay, the chemical identification numbers are in numerical order. So we should find 2,215. I'm just picking a random number. Everybody find it? Numbers in numerical order. It should be on like page 48. Let me help you out.
Yeah,
Page 48.
It's on page 48.
Okay. You see where it says, it's got the ID number 2215. It's got two chemicals it could be. What guide number does it say?
156.
So you go to the orange section and you go to guide number 156. Okay.
Fire or explosion.
So it has fire explosion hazards, health hazards, public safety, what you need to do, what kind of protective clothing, if it's a spill or a fire, large fire, what is, how to do basic things if you're the fire service. And it has some basic first aid things down the bottom of the page. Okay? That's the things you start following. Does that make sense? If you know the name, you look it up in the blue section, and they're in alphabetical order also. Okay? So if you just go to the first page of the blue, and take the second one, it'll tell you the guide number, okay? 127. If you go to the ID number, 1088, guess what it's gonna say on that page? Guide number 126. See how you cross-reference itself if you don't know one or the other. And the green areas are for, what's the green area for you? I forget. Oh, it's a newer version of the book. The green area has all your evacuations by placard number and distance of isolation contacts and large spills, not far contacts. Okay, you're probably not gonna do much in the green section, but the yellow is identified by numbers, and the blue is identified by name. You can look them up, and then you go to the orange. Okay? And then you just start reading what to do. And for ours it was 156, right? You can look at the back and find the placard number and, out the green, it will take start evacuations, sizes and stuff of that nature. But on the very front in the white pages, it has very important information. There's all your trucks and your rail cars. There's all your placard signs, things that make it identifiable. The numbers on the placards in the circle, guess what they mean? Circles. What do you think they mean under these placards? That's the guide number. Okay? If you see a plain white placard with skull and crossbones and you don't know what it is, you look it up in the book, it says 123. That's going to be the guide number you're going to go to for all these in this group. So you don't have to know the chemical. You see the placard, you be like, oh, that's a placard 112. I need to be going to guide number 112. Okay? Fire services still use this. It's still not a lost art. It's the one on every ambulance. You download your app or do whatever you do, but you need to know how to read the ERG, okay? They come out, one of y'all got a 2016. Who's got the 2016? They update every 4 or 5 years, but you know what? This is still just as reliable as our 2016 book, okay? One from 2010 is probably still workable. It's just a document. You can get these free through different public safety, DOT and stuff of that nature, but they made it real easy for everybody to download the app and you carry the app. Everybody's got a phone on them, right? You're driving down the road, you're more likely to hide your app and this thing stuck in a glove box behind the passenger seat or in a compartment in your ambulance, right? You can drive up and look at the hazard material and see what you need to look up. Okay, so if you have the app, I tell you, the only way to learn to be fluent is you drive down the road and you see the big trucks. You're like, hey, you know what that is? Make a note. You know what I'm saying? When you get somewhere, look it up.
Start freaking yourself out.
Look it up. If you see something with big crossbones and corrosive, you can probably say, I don't want to ride. I need to be in front of that vehicle, not behind that vehicle. Right? If it crashes, I don't want to be a part of the problem. I want to be driving on down the other side of the problem. I want to be getting off my exit to go get my Chick-fil-A instead of being stuck behind some chemical spill, something of that nature, right?
I mean, the thing about it in the United States, right, is everybody's moving to inherently safe, so, it's a heck of a burden for a company, but it's so expensive, but it's basically you drive, you flip, it doesn't bust, right? You just have.
Yeah. Another part of that sounds simple.
Yeah, I did that on a railroad track once.
Right, you know, you see these train cars, you see these suits.
Hey, the
I mean,
rail-
there are literally people that dedicate their whole life as hazmat technicians and
Guys, Ross.
You know, you can just take away all the lighting on the stage and they can identify every tanker and all this. I just need to go and look at this. I look like that picture right there. Yeah, that's a combustible gas. We need to go to 117. Right, and level 117. Yeah, that's a gas, toxic, flammable, extreme hazard. We probably don't need to be walking up there. We don't have any protective clothing. I don't know. It just really, wherever that tanker truck was, some kind of compressed gas keeping the trailer. You know, if you see a 134 where it says bulk, dry bulk cargo, that's probably, you know, nothing to be worried about. This is what it says. It still could be flammable solids, toxic or corrosive. Gotta be a grain truck in here somewhere.
Environmental energy used to call everything not local.
That's
local, yeah.
Yeah, that's all bad stuff. Everybody good with ZRG? It's very important that someone know how to function in this. No matter which, if you're a first responder, an EMT, intermediate, AAD, supervisor, this can start the process of making things better in a bad situation. And protect yourself. You protect the public. Hey man, you don't need to go in there. You know what the guys, my orange book says we need to be outside. Okay. Okay. Seriously. You know, the goal of these things too is not to prevent, is to prevent more casualties that happen. Right? And make sure yourself is not contaminated. Okay? Everybody go with that? Everybody got their KD checkout sheets? No, got them yet?
I got mine at home, just,
Okay, so over the weekend, review that, please, on Monday. We have enough KDs and we have one per table. And one of you have to be the patient, two of you will put it on and we'll rotate through, put it on my correct steps and the manners. Sometime in between the break of their gun and knife club class they got going on over there, we will go back there and do it in a real vehicle. Okay? There's a world of difference in doing it in this chair in a real vehicle. So worst case scenario, if it's not 9,000 degrees outside, we will go outside and get that Explorer and put it outside and do it in out of the car for some real life practical application. For registry and stuff, they're sitting in a regular chair, like this right here. You'll notice when you go do it outside in a real live car, it becomes a little more complicated because you can't get all the way around the patient. Okay? It's a fairly simple skill. It's not one you use every day, but you never know when that one day might be that you need to use the KED, like everything else. Okay? I'll go with that. All right. Got any questions, comments, gripes, complaints? Speak now or hold your peace. Say amen.
Amen.
Wow, I actually said it. Somebody would just sit there and stare at me like, I'll take that as a yes. Okay, so have a good time on Monday, KED.
Yeah, one chapter boss.
Huh?
You gotta do chapter 40.
Chapter what?
40.
What chapter is that? Huh?
There's one more, we just did chapter 30.
Terrorism response to disaster.
Yeah, how to get there?
Appreciate the walk down memory lane.
Oh, okay, well, this isn't me hard. Put it up there. Let's talk about it.
It's 78.
Okay, ain't gonna be
And
saying
it's all the same stuff.
All right, minimum an hour. Okay? So these things all start off the same, right? What's our goal?
Safe.
Know your roles, responsibility to serve public and patient and personal safety. Doesn't matter in the event, right? Who told y'all we did in chapter 40? One of your classmates? Y'all were- All right. So mass casualty incidents due to terrorism and disaster, risk and responsibilities of an opening scene, operating on a scene of natural man-made disaster. What kind of risk could you have?
The
even if it was, it might not be the only incident.
That's right. One of most bombers or the abortion clinic bombing in Sandy Springs in the early nineties. And they had another, bombing in Atlanta too at the, I can't think of the nightclub they had in there. What's the fear there? If we're first on scene and we go in this parking lot, start shooting faces, what's the fear?
Secondary devices.
Secondary device. Who are they designed to hurt or kill or maim?
Us.
Us, right? I like all my parts attached to me, all my blood inside of me, and all the pieces I came with to work today, I like to have them when I leave to go home, right? What are some risks versus natural disasters?
More or less the same thing.
Same big, yeah, flooding, you could be trapped in a flash flood, a tornado working in that environment, hurricanes working in that environment, things that can cause risk to you that you need to be doing. These all revolve back to what word? It starts with an S, and the second word starts with an A.
Safety.
You know, first word starts with S, second word starts with an A. No, not that. Remember, situational awareness. Everywhere you go, you should be aware of your around, pay attention. If something doesn't look right, or walk along, we hear a funny noise coming from a room, what we probably need to do? Not open that door, right? You probably need to evacuate. You know, we notice the water is rising, we have problems going on, we probably need to find a shelter in place. So the disaster's over. We've done that during snowstorms here. We just found places for people to park. Well, we've gotten our people back to headquarters and we shelter till it's a safe time to run the minimum calls to get by. You protect yourself, right? You may be called to respond to a terrorist event during your career. That's probably a true statement now. If you asked me 20 years ago when I started this, I'd tell you you're crazy, but the whole world's not the same world as it was 20 years ago. It ain't the same world we lived in 2018 to 2020, right? Okay. It's difficult to plan and anticipate the response to many terrorist events, but you still can prepare and plan for certain things, bombing, certain terrorist events. You still have a plan. It just depends on how well it's executed, right? Where it's at, what it is, etc. Okay. Terrorism involves violent acts that are dangerous to human life that violate federal state laws and appears to be intended to what? Coerce the population, influence a policy or change by a government or a cohesion, and affect the conduct of a government or mass destruction, assassination, / kidnapping. You know, unfortunately in America, not a lot of that happens, but where does a lot of this happen at?
Europe. No.
Yeah, Europe or third world countries, Afghanistan, Iraq, France, England, how many bombs in England and France have subways, transit systems, even some in Germany, places designed to cause disruption.
77 in the UK was the most recent one.
Yeah. But like I said earlier, Atlanta's a very rich target environment. Very rich target environment. People just don't mess with us too much, okay? International terrorism occurs primarily outside the United States. Most common in the Middle East we talked about. Domestic terrorism in Atlanta is and the United States are these mass casualty, active shooters, things of that nature. You know, there's been several Sandy Hook, Columbine, Aurora, Colorado, things of that nature. Nightclub shooting in Orlando, things of that nature. People got their own agenda and want to try to change the world. That's not the way to do it. Religious groups, extremists, cults, you know, right, wrong, or indifferent in 1994, 93, early 94, whatever.
Okay.
But David Koresh and crazy clowns out there in Waco, Texas. You know, it doesn't matter how it ended, but you consider them a terrorist organization trying to cause pandemonium and havoc. Okay. Extreme groups for religious, political, economic, social freedoms from their government. You see that a lot in the Middle East stuff. It'll be interesting to come out and see what they say about Beirut. Was it actually an incident of fire, or was that intentionally done? That'll be cyber attacks. You know, those are more and more common. You know, on credit card frauds. Look at Hartsfield Airport. It didn't take much for whatever happened with their computer system, their glitch with Delta, whether it was terrorism or a computer problem, that shut down the whole world. You know, ooh, nobody's flying in, nobody's flying out, right? Also called weapons of mass casualty. They can use anything, gas, chemicals, explosions, any kind of biohazard, and their whole purpose is to what? Cause mass death, major property damage, infrastructure damage, and kill as many people as they can for whatever belief or whatever thing they're into, right? You can have be nice, nuclear, biological, nuclear, incendiary, chemical, and exposure. These are all types of weapons of mass destruction. Least harmful, really bad, not so bad, real bad, and biological can cause long-term things. Just, examples, mass, a dirty bomb, a smallpox, something like that, to affect people, and it just keeps going. It's the gift that keeps giving, right? You got sea burnings, you got chemical, biological, radio, or nuclear explosion. None of those are good. Sea burning, none of those are good. All called mass destruction, a lot of death, a lot of casualties, and depending on the variations that they're trying to do for the resources. Chemical agents, what do they do to you?
Depends on what the chemical is, but
Yep, can have blisters, respiratory problems, nerve agents, metabolic issues, all on the body, which causes the end result going to be what? Yeah, it depends on how fast or how slow your death is going to be, right? Biological agents are viruses, bacteria, and toxidromes. Mass from slow death to instant death. Some of these have cures for them, some of them don't. But how long do you think it takes before they realize a dirty bomb or a biological agent has happened?
depending on what it was, probably not very quick though.
No,
Unless it was smallpox or something, that would probably get figured out pretty quick.
but like the West Nile virus, it took, or even Corona, and all those things, it take some months to develop that, hey, there's something wrong with a whole lot of people at a whole lot of mass, right? Could be slow, could be a good onset. And these are the people with contaminated water supplies, you know, things of that nature. It could be something like that into a region. Nuclear radar, you know, look, what happened to these two places? They were non-existent, right? Okay. All your foundations say the same. They need to be deconned inside your instant command system, or treatment, transport section, treat the injuries. Maybe you get time to consult Google. Something if you don't know what it is. Recognizing a terrorist event. There's all these government agencies that monitor all these clowns and all these radical groups that send out alert summaries. And when we get a lot of them, like Super Bowl, there's all these alerts now, high indexes. Olympics was a good one. Day-to-day operations, anywhere the president goes, things of that nature. They send out alerts, just journal alerts. They hear somebody talking over here, and they interpret it, tell you your risk factor levels. On every call, you must take the following observation. It goes back to where are you, what type of call is it, how many patients you are, what they need, victim statements, and pre-incident indicators, right?